Welcome back to the channel and Happy New Year. Let's hope that 2025 is a very happy one and a successful one for all of you personally and for our beloved Tottenham Hotspur. Now, this is the first time that we are doing this. This is the fan show. We will be talking to a number of Tottenham Hotspur fans dotted all around the world. They will be giving their thoughts on the club, on the season so far, and Postecoglou, the transfer window, and so much more. Co-hosting with me today is channel regular Craig Dearman. Craig, Happy New Year to you. How are you?
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody watching and listening. Yeah, I'm all good. Really looking forward to this show, actually. Getting some people on that, obviously first chance to come on the channel and talk about all things Tottenham. I'm sure there's a lot of frustrations and everything people want to get out. So, yeah, looking forward to this.
Craig, talking about those frustrations, how are you feeling at this halfway point in the season? Because, of course, we record podcast after podcast, week after week, game after game. How are you feeling right now?
It's weird after a game, well, it wasn't a loss, was it? It was a draw, but, you know, feel a bit down. But then as the next match approaches, you start getting up for it again. And hopefully, look, we can welcome a couple of players back from injury soon. Which we're going to need over the rest of the season, really, not just January. So, and obviously the transfer window's up now, so that's something to hopefully get our teeth into in podcasts over the next month as well, and look forward to welcoming some much needed players into the team. So yeah, feeling okay ahead of Newcastle. It's going to be a tough game, but obviously the big one for us is next week in Liverpool in the Cup. So looking forward to that one as well.
Craig, expectations with the transfer window. What are you actually expecting?
What I expect and what I hope for are probably two different things. But look, we've got to bring in players. We know we've got to bring players in. I would hope they bring in 3. Perhaps expectations a bit lower, perhaps 2. But look, might get a surprise, you never know. So, I mean, if we can get 3 or 4 players through the door, obviously players coming back from injury, that's almost like getting a new player in anyway, in some regards, especially like likes of Odebear, you know. So there's a lot of players to come back still, 7 or 8 players to come back. So having them back will be having like a refresher to the squad. So, but we obviously still need 2 or 3 players through the door.
Craig, let's start bringing in the guests, and we do have so many guests from dotted all around the world, which we're very proud of. We're going to start with Linton in South Africa. Linton, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Chris, and happy New Year to you guys and to everybody listening. But yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Linton, how are you feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan?
Extremely disappointed, to say the least. I think as we all are. We certainly haven't performed the way we have. We all discussed it earlier, or earlier in the season, that we were left short in the summer transfer window, and that's coming back to bite us right now.
Do you think we need more than 2 or 3 players in Linton in this window?
I think we do. I think 3 is a minimum, I would say. But again, we're just not sure, what they're going to bring in. I suspect it'll mostly be players on loan that'll come in, because, as we know, the January window is a difficult one. So I think there'll probably be loan moves, or they'll try and loan as many as they can. And there might be 1 or 2 possibly that buy. But, if we bring in certainly more than 3, then certainly at least 2 of them will be loan moves, I would expect.
Linton, how are you feeling about Spurs boss Ange Postecoglou? Because it's fair to say that he has received quite a bit of stick so far this season.
I think he doesn't help himself with a lot of the post-match interviews. I think he's been a bit prickly lately. Obviously, it's the pressure that he's under. So, look, I'm pretty much on the fence. I don't think it helps changing him right now. So I think the board will probably give him until the end of the season and just see where he is and where we are as a team, and then from there they would probably make a decision. But I don't think sacking him right now would be the answer. And certainly, if we did, who are we going to bring in?
Are you still Ange then, Linton, would you say?
I am. I am only just, I would say. I'm not I mean, end of last season we were all resoundingly Ange in, and now it's I'm Ange in, but almost on the fence, if I could put it that way. So but let's look, I think his saving grace has been that the board have recognized that there've been a number of injuries, and so I think that is probably why he hasn't lost his job yet. And so I think once we get those players back, I think it's a case of, let's see, are we able to move up the table once we get those players back?
Linton, where do you stand on Heung-min Son? Because, of course, he is now in the last 6 months of contract. Would you expect Spurs to have that 1 year extension? Would you like to see him get a new contract, or is it time for him to go?
I would trigger the 1 year extension. And then I think after that, I think his time is pretty much up. I think he would be around probably with his experience to help the younger players come through. And then, if we buy more younger players, then, his experience and what he can teach them would be invaluable. And of course, because he's been there, done that. So I wouldn't go past next season. But he's had a really disappointing season. So but I think they'll probably trigger the additional year, and then after that, I think it's time up for him, which is sad to say, because he's been for many of us, he's been one of our favorite players, and he's been an absolute inspiration, and we've loved everything that he's done for us, and the way he's performed on the pitch, the kind of play he's been off the pitch. But I think they're probably going to trigger the 1 year extension.
Linton, just this comment on screen here. I hope Paratici can be involved in January transfer window despite his ongoing ban. Otherwise, I do not see us getting quality in. Would you think, or how do you think Johan Lang has performed? Do you think Paratici signings were better than his, or do you think it's too early to really make a judgment on who was better? Are you glad Paratici's still knocking about, or do you think it undermines Langer?
I think Daniel Levy's got a lot of respect for Fabio Paratici and everything he's done, because I think his signings have been pretty good. I think it's too early to judge Johan Langer, so we just have to wait and see. I would guess that the two are probably working hand in hand. Paratici's signings have been pretty good and they've performed pretty well. It just depends, on the philosophy that they both share and whether they can align those two. But I do still think Paratici's heavily involved in the background.
Linton, last question for you. Who would you say the most overrated and underrated player in the squad are right now?
Underrated player, well, he's been the player of the season so far, is Kulusevski. And, I still think, in terms of the Premier League and being recognised in the Premier League, I do still think he's extremely underrated. Overrated, that's a tough one.
Or who needs to give more?
Who needs to give more? Oh, there's a number of them that need to give more. You look at Timo Werner, who's been a real disappointment. He certainly can. I just don't think he's a Premier League player. I mean, put him in any of the other leagues, and I think he'll do reasonably well. But in the Premier League, I think he's been just at Chelsea, and now for us, he really hasn't performed well. And then, I think there's more to come. Dragusin's been good in parts, but he's also been very disappointed. I think there's more to come from him, or there should be, and we certainly hope that there would be more to come from him. Maddison, again,
I think we've lost Linton. So, Linton, thank you so much for joining us. We will go to our next guest, which is Liam in London. Liam, hi. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you both?
Oh, yeah.
Very well.
Yeah, not bad.
And thank you so much for joining a lot of our shows lately. Pleasure having you back. Liam, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? Because, of course, Spurs are now mid-table. We're closer to the relegation zone than top four. I know that, to some people is, calm down. Ange Postecoglou is doing the job that he's doing. And, he's trying his best with all the injury issues that we've got at the moment. But how are you feeling overall?
I think, like most fans, pretty underwhelmed going into this season, especially because, Ange bigs it up. Second season, we'll win a trophy. We still can. Obviously, we're still winning all the cups, but league performance has definitely been very underwhelming. Just pretty disappointed, to be fair, so far.
Yeah, it's been a topsy-turvy season, Liam, hasn't it? Again, I think we'd all love a nice settled season. We're a bit like the 16-17 season where you're winning more than you're losing. And are you still in the Ange camp as in, we've heard a lot of people say, all right, fine, you want Ange out, but who is there to bring in? What's your thoughts on it? Do you think we should stick with him?
I kind of take that same kind of thought process into it, because I'm still Ange at the moment, but, there needs to be a plan B. But it is also the fact of, if you get rid of Ange, who else is there? We seem to have this thing at Spurs recent years. It's kind of like a merry-go-round, since Poch left. It's kind of, we changed the manager, but nothing really at the club seems to change. The mentality doesn't really change. We don't go on and we win trophies. We don't really challenge much. It's just, I think it's more a mentality thing at the club. There's something there that most fans really, me personally, I can't put my finger on, but I don't think changing manager is the right step at the moment. I think stick with Ange and just see if he can deliver, like the League Cup or the FA Cup, maybe even Europa League this season.
Liam, top four or, European place or a cup? Because, Spurs, nearly 17 years without a trophy. It's crazy stat, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 20. So last time we won something, I was 3.5. And obviously I can't remember that. So I've never seen us win anything. So I'd take winning the Carabao Cup over top four. I'd literally take winning anything at this point.
Do you think that is Ange's main aim this season, is to try and put a cup in the cabinet rather than league position? Because that would surprise me a little bit, because the club are so fixated on league position and getting that automatic European spot.
I think Ange's ambition is to deliver. When he came in, right, he said, I want to make Spurs a successful winning side. I want to change the mentality of the club and win trophies. And I think he is trying to do that. But I think it's more the board are focused on league position. Because obviously, the revenue it brings in to get top four, Champions League, brings in more money. I think more the board are focused on that. But I think Ange personally, he's more ambitious and he wants to go for the trophies, even though, to us, I'd take winning the League Cup and finishing 10th. And I think Ange probably would as well. But I think it's the board that really wants to push for the top four.
Just going back on what you said just now, Liam, about how things haven't changed. You change the manager, yet nothing does really seem to change. I totally agree, actually. It does seem to be this never-ending cycle of rinse and repeat. Manager comes in, we get a new manager, bounce managers as well, everybody's happy, things start to go downhill, fans turn, manager gets sacked, and then we get a new manager in. Do you think that's just limited to Tottenham, or do you think that's pretty much Premier League football in a nutshell?
I think the sad thing is that is Premier League football now. I think that is football at the elite level. I think managers come in, everyone's happy at first, they get the bounce and they get the sack. But at Spurs, it does seem to be this thing. Like when Ange came in, obviously we were all happy. I think every Spurs fan was over the moon with how we performed. I mean, especially up until November last year, we were flying. And I think every Spurs fan was happy. But you get a couple of dodgy results, some fans start to turn, and then it's Ange out, Ange is the problem, Ange is this. But I think there is a more deep-rooted issue at this club, and I think it does come from the top.
Liam, are you still being entertained, though? Because, of course, Ange Postecoglou is all about the entertainment. Are you entertained? When was the last time you were entertained watching Spurs?
I mean, it's entertaining watching Spurs, but it hurts your heart, doesn't it? I mean, you sit there watching it, and at times you can't breathe. I mean, it's entertaining, yeah. I'm sure I'd enjoy it a lot more if I was a neutral fan watching Spurs, but yeah, it's still entertaining. I'd like a couple more wins, obviously, but you can never say as a Spurs fan you're not entertained watching that.
Yeah, but just leading on from what we was talking about as well. Steve says here, for me, positioning the league is more important. That kind of links into what Ange was saying. That, you know, it might all very well be winning a trophy, but it's not the be all and end all. You know, is anybody going to be remember it outside Tottenham if we won the Carabao Cup, for example? I know we would as fans, of course we would, and I personally think that pushes you on to bigger and better things. But can you see where Angie's coming from on that? That it's part of this big plan and it's just not quite working at the moment. And yeah, you might win a cup, but if you're finishing 17th in the league, that's no good.
Yeah, I can definitely see where he's coming from that point of view. But like you said there, I feel it does. Once we win something, I feel then that mentality might switch at the club, and then we can go on and win something else. Because then I think it is all just about confidence. I mean, if you come to Spurs at the moment and you're a player, I don't think there's really any push to like you have to win something. You know, like players go to Liverpool and they go straight into Liverpool, and it's like people expect you to win. The board expects you to succeed, and you expect to win trophies. And I fear there isn't that at Spurs. But I would generally just take winning anything, like League Cup, FA Cup, anything, and then I'd hope over time that push us on to bigger and better things, and then we could then look at, you know, challenging for the league or something like that. But we're not at the place where we can challenge for the league now. But league position, yeah, it's important, but I think winning a trophy at this point in time is more important.
It's such an interesting one because recording these podcasts year after year, how many people have we heard, Craig, say, oh, you know, I'm not worried about top four anymore, not worried about top six, not worried about European spot, I want a trophy. And now, of course, Spurs are mid-table. We are still in all the cup competitions. I feel like the attitude will change if and when we do go out of cup competitions, but it's going to be an interesting one. Liam, last question for you. Of course, the Newcastle game takes place Saturday, the early kickoff. How are you feeling ahead of that one? And give us a score prediction if you like.
To be honest, I'm not very confident because Newcastle the last couple of seasons seem to turn us over every time we play against them. We seem to collapse. My heart says we win 3-1, but my head says they win 3-1. But yeah, I would say 3-1 to us. We'll put out a performance. Just be optimistic and hope.
Liam, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
We're now going to go to our next guest, and that is going to be Jim from the USA. Jim, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm really happy to be on the show here. Hi, Craig.
Hello,
Great
mate.
to have you here, Jim. Jim, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
Ooh, gosh, a whole bunch of mixed feelings. Like, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and so I know about disappointing sports teams because in my lifetime, only one Cleveland major sports team has won anything, and that was the Cavaliers. And everyone else, you know, get close, tease you, and then disappoint you just like Tottenham does. So it's not anything I'm not used to, but the main thing that bothers me about the season thus far is not the poor run of form, not the occasional poor play, but it brings out all the fans that are like, Ange out, if that's going to fix anything, and it's not gonna, and it just, it drives me crazy.
You say that, Jim. One of the things that I was thinking about today, do you think our fan base as a whole is patient enough?
It's hard to think of the fan base as a whole since there are so many that are just, you know, true blue, support the team no matter what, and there are some that are just over emotional, overreactive. And frankly, when I see the chat on some of these podcasts, some of those people aren't Spurs fans. I bet some of them are Arsenal fans pretending to be Spurs fans so they can get in and say mean things.
I think probably the frustration, though, Jim, is a club like Spurs. You know, when you walk into that stadium, it feels like a massive club, and we haven't won a trophy in 17 years. I can get people's frustration of not winning a trophy in that length of time. But the only thing I would say is you've got to kind of hit that reset button every single time we appoint a new manager and give them the time. What do you think will change under Ange Postecoglou? Because surely the board have to operate in a different way and do things differently, you know, because when you look back, and I've said this multiple times on multiple different shows, 7 managers since 2019, including Pochettino, right up to Postecoglou now, we can't keep changing managers every 18 months.
I agree. Yeah, you're totally got it right, Chris. That managerial revolving door has done nothing good for us. It's done nothing good for Man United. It's done nothing good for Everton. It's done nothing good for Wolves. It doesn't do any team any good. At some point, you have to say, look, we think this guy can do it. Maybe not this year, but we got to stick with him because he has a potential. We tried the win now mentality with Conte and Mourinho. Didn't work. Instead, let's do it the Ange way. Let's build a team, build a squad, build a mentality. And yeah, unfortunately, that's going to take some patience and some rough sledding at times. But here's another thing I've noticed. There was a long stretch of life when I couldn't watch British soccer because it wasn't being televised anywhere. But I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime any team have this many injuries in a season. I mean, that's the closest I come was a year after Liverpool won it. I think they had a stretch where Van Dijk was out, Konate was out, Gomez was out, but they still had their starting goaltender. They still had Salah and some very good front line players, and they did not fall as far as we've fallen so far this year. But I think when we get some players back, things will pick up. They'll be able to see the difference.
Jim, it always fascinates me speaking to fans from around the world. And, you know, how did you get it? Why Tottenham, I guess is what I'm saying. And you know, obviously in America, football, soccer is not your number one sport. I mean, obviously it clearly is for you. I'm guessing soccer, football is your number one sport. How did it all come about for you?
Well, first of all, I played soccer in high school. I was a total klutz athletically, but soccer I enjoyed, and they'd have me on the team, and I enjoyed it. And it was, I think, the early 80s. The first time I ever saw Tottenham Hotspurs on the television was an FA Cup match, because that's all what they would ever televise back then, with featuring Tottenham Hotspur. And I just remember them being a really fun and exciting team to watch. And I mean, Glenn Hoddle was on the team. I think Ozzy Ardiles might have been. And I didn't know who these players were because I didn't follow British sports at the time. But I remember them being this really, fun, exciting team to watch. And also my mom liked them a lot too. And then fast forward to, I forget exactly which year it was, but NBC had gotten the contract to broadcast the games in the U.S. And I noticed 2 weeks in a row, Tottenham was playing, and they had this kid who was wearing a number 18 at the time who saved the team's butt 2 weeks in a row with late goals. I thought, gosh, who is this guy? I've never heard of this guy before. He's really good. Of course, it was Harry Kane. And I just, that became the team that I supported most throughout my watching of British soccer from that day to this.
Jim, last question for you. What do Spurs need to do in the winter window as an absolute must?
Very minimum 2, but probably 3 or 4. I'm not really expecting 4, but at least 2 players, at least one that can fill in at center back and left back, and at least one that can give some people a rest at the winger, because God knows, I mean, Son needs a rest. Solanke probably needs a rest by now. Dragusin needs a rest. We got some players that need a rest. So someone who can come in and allow us to rest some players, get fresh for the games that matter most.
Jim, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on again very soon.
Okay,
thanks, Jim.
Come on, you Spurs.
Thank you. So we're now going to go to another guest. We're going to go to Steve in the Czech Republic. Steve, how are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm fine. Craig, how are you?
You're right, Steve.
All right. Yeah.
Great to have you on, Steve.
And
you.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
How are you feeling right now, Steve? Spurs are in mid-table, but we're in all the cups. Are you happy? Are you mixed? How are you feeling?
No, I'm happy. I mean, I don't understand a lot of the fans what they're complaining about. To be honest, I know it's a case of we don't really belong in that part of the table, but on the other hand, you know, we are still in the cups. You know, I've been following Spurs since 66, 67 season, so I've been on this roller coaster ride for a long time, which is just as well. I come from the South Coast, so we're used to roller coasters. Poor joke. But I must admit, this season's been a bit of one of the worst ever. But no, I'm happy that we're still in the cups. But like you said earlier, I do believe, and I've against, you know, all my wishes, I don't think we're going to get past Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. But I do think we could at least get to the final of the Europa League Cup. You know, we're one of the best teams in it. It all depends if we manage to get as many of the first team back and maybe one or two new signings. But I'm really thinking of more over the regular players coming back.
Steve, can I ask then, what's more important for you, winning cups or league position? Because as we've already mentioned, and as we know from previous years, the league position is very important to the football club. But I feel like we've gone, you know, we've played in the Champions League a lot. We've played in the Europa League. We've even had stints in the Europa Conference League, you know, in the first year the competition began. Is it about time now that Spurs actually concentrated on putting something like the Carabao Cup in the cabinet, because it has been such a long time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not over, you know, like it's difficult to do both things or all things at once. I mean, you know, to stay high up in the table and perform well in the cups. And at the moment, with this depleted side that we've got, I think we should be happy we've got what we've got at the moment. I know we haven't won anything, but we've still got that hope. So the league position, listen, as far as in my lifetime, we've never really been a league side anyway. We did well under Poch, but he wasn't backed, and we saw the result of that. So I'm happy that we're still in the cups.
Steve, if Ange is lucky enough to win us a cup, should fans hold him in higher regard than Pochettino? Because obviously we've all got great memories of that, but he didn't win anything, did he? That's
a strange question. You know, that's what the Americans call a curveball, that one, blimey. I really like Poch, I must admit, Poch. That's... and what he did was fantastic. It was particularly unlucky. No, I wouldn't hold him in higher esteem. I'd be happy for everyone, the fans and the club, and for Ange himself. But I wouldn't hold him in higher regard than Pochettino. What he achieved to get to the Champions League final.
Exactly. Not spending a penny in 518 days. How many times have you heard that one, Steve?
Yeah, exactly.
Steve, do you think that Pochettino or indeed Harry Kane will ever return to Spurs?
That's a good one as well. I've got a sneaky feeling that maybe Harry Kane will come back. If you know, I don't know exactly when, but I think he might come back. Fuchs, I'm not so sure about Pochettino. I don't really think so. No, I think I'd like to see him back, but then again, if Ange does well and builds on this, then you know. The ship's going, as it were, or the gravy train's going, and we could be on to good things with Ange. I like the style of Ange. I think he's been extremely unlucky, and I think there's a lot of some of the fan base. I don't believe they're actually fans who go to the games, you know, with this Ange out business, and you know, I don't think he's been given enough time to be saying things like that. And what's the point, as a couple of other people have said, there's no point, you know, changing jockeys mid-race. There's absolutely no point at all. Let him see it out, and then at the end of the season, if we still haven't won anything, then some of the fans will have that argument, you know, that he didn't actually produce anything. And I'm so surprised that he said himself that, you know, that I always win something in the second season, mate, is really making a rod for his own back. To say that, why would you say that? So that's just an opinion. Yeah? But I'm behind.
I think you're right. I think he probably regrets saying that. In essence,
I do as well.
It was just a throwaway sort of comment, wasn't it? Where he said, "I always win in my second season, mate." But I'm sure as soon as he said it,
it is a fact, though. It is a fact, but I think it's just been blown out of proportion a little.
I think it is.
For sure.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's a fact. Yeah.
It's. I'm still behind Ange. If
me
you've
too.
watched the pod, if you've watched the podcast, I think I made that abundantly clear over the next last few months. And as long as he's been under pressure, I just think he's had so much to contend with injuries. Steve, do you think, we've discussed this on previous pods, do you think the way we play is bringing about most of these injuries, or do you think some of it is just bad luck?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've looked into this as well as lots of people probably have. I think in the modern game, it's because, we followed the game over the years, the last, 30 odd, 40 years. And there were never those kind of injuries because the level of fitness was never as high as it is. But ostensibly, because we play the way we do, this high line, and I would say probably it has contributed to it. I would say it has contributed to these injuries that we're getting. But then again, what percentage of the injured players do have hamstring injuries? I think it's 4 from the 8 or 4 from the 9. The others have got thigh, ankle, But the 4 of them are out, so that's 50% of the injuries. But because there's 2 or 3 of the players have had these injuries in the past, as we know, with Van der Ven, Richarlison was, although he's got a thigh injury now, he's been in and out with these injuries. So some of them have histories of it.
Steve, last question for you. Who will be the Spurs manager at the start of next season?
Well, obviously, it all depends if we actually win anything and stay in a reasonable position roughly in the middle of the table. If we get the Carabao Cup or the League Cup, we might still have him. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because a lot been made about this number 6. And I have an opinion about this, or I had, I think we have the player that should play the 6, the pivot in front of the back 4, whatever you want to call it. Nowadays, there's all these different descriptions. And I don't know, and maybe one of you two can tell me why the idea of using Romero in that position would be a bad idea. Because the way I look at it, he reads the play so well. And he can find a pass, he gets stuck in. So therefore, if he was outside the box most of the time, he wouldn't be giving away penalties. No, but I do find that he doesn't read the game in the air, as we saw against Leicester. And he looked over his shoulder and Jamie Vardy sort of wandered past him. He let him go and they scored a goal. And the next game or the next game after that, he was at fault. So he's not, I know he's an international for Argentina in the back 4. Or the back 3, what they play. But when I look at him, I just think he can carry the ball. He doesn't get flustered under pressure. He's an ideal 6 for me. So what do you guys think quickly on that?
I agree. We have discussed this before, Steve, on the podcast.
I don't watch
but I do believe that the long-term plan would probably be to put Archie Gray in there, and the amount of experience that Archie Gray is getting in all of these different positions at the moment, I think is going to do him the world of good, being only 18. How many times has Ange Postecoglou said that about Archie Gray? But he has done very, very well. But we have discussed about Romero playing that number 6 role before, Craig, haven't we? The fact that we all agreed that he could do it.
Okay, I think, I think he'd be really good in it. I think you're right. Defensively, from corners, set pieces, and even crosses, I don't think Romero. I think that's the weakest part of his game. I think attacking the ball at corners, he's proved he can score from a corner. I think he's much better at down the attacking end of the pitch than defence, which is a weird thing to say about a centre back when you think about it. But I agree, he would make a good number 6, I think. But I agree with Chris. I think Archie Gray, I'd love to see him get a prolonged run in the team at that number 6 position, but as we all know, he's not going to be given the chance at that for a little while yet, because of
his age.
It's the players we've got injured. When you got Hoffenheim and Elfsborg coming up, I would imagine Archie Gray's got to play left back because the dog is still going to be out and Spence isn't registered. So he's going to be playing another position.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I enjoy the show. Okay.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Goodbye.
Cheers,
Goodbye,
Steve.
Craig.
Bye. Bye.
We're now going to go to our next guest, Melvin in Malta. Melvin, how are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. Hey, Craig, how are you?
Hello, mate. You look exactly like a bloke I know. Spooky. He lives on Malta as well.
And a singer in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium called James Black. Melvin, how are you? Happy New Year. And how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? And how are you feeling ahead of the Newcastle game?
Happy New Year, guys. I'm okay as a Spurs fan at the moment. In a weird way, I sort of was expecting us to have this kind of season. And it's only a second season. I mean, it's a rebuild. We had to gut out the whole club in a way. In the summer, we sold lots of players. We moved on quite a bit, sometimes more than we expected, but we still have a lot. I think we're still struggling financially, to get rid of them. Some of them had to take massive hits in Dombele. I think we're in a good position now to properly strengthen again now. There's people that left. There's some still to go. I think as a fan, because I'm an international fan, let's call me that, I am maybe a bit more calm than the match-going fans. I think if I was going to every single home game, I would be more disappointed, more angry. I would want more of the club, more of the players, more of the manager. But when you're sat at home watching the game, sometimes you're a bit more, like when I see what Chris at the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I'm more angry if we lose or draw or there's not a performance because you travel all that way, in the cold, in the rain, and then sometimes you just want more of the team. I'm still, for the Newcastle game, I'm weirdly worried. I still think the squad's going to be a bit tired. I know they've had a few days of rest. I'd love to see the players, how you say, I don't think a couple of days rest will make lots of magic, but it will solve some of our issues. I know Udogi now is injured, which will compound our problems because it's another player that needs to be replaced and another position we cannot rotate. But the Newcastle game worries me. I think at home we've been easy to beat. People know our weakness. They know how to exploit it time and time again. I don't know how we're going to get past this period. I hope we do. I hope we get past it without sacking the manager, something that I spoke about. I think I've called out on the channel moments time and time again for the fans to be, I'm going to say it, patient and stick by the manager, stick by this painful part of the rebuild, because at this point in time, we can see where the gaps are, and there are gaps. And we know what we're doing wrong, and we just need to improve on these key factors, I believe.
Melvin, if you could snap your fingers and bring in any player in the world to Tottenham this transfer window, who would it be?
What, a realistic one or just anyone?
No, anyone.
Oh, come on, it's got to be realistic.
They're all realistic. We've got the money. All right, realistic. Go on.
You caught me off guard there. I track quite a few players that we're linked with. I like Patrick Dorgu, the left back, but sometimes he's played as right wing and left wing, so he's versatile. But he's a left back. Centre backs.
Lecce are asking around £30 million for Dorgu, Melvin.
Yeah.
Is it likely that Spurs are going to go and spend a lot of money in this window, do you think?
I don't know. I think Spurs are sometimes clever in the market, sometimes not. I think with Paratici being linked with the Italian side of football, I think Italian clubs will sell. I just feel that the players want to come to the Premier League. I mean, I speak to my friend who's an AC Milan fan, and my girlfriend is an AC Milan fan all the time, and their wages are absolutely very poor compared to the Premier League. I mean, we can easily triple someone's wages if we want to. Easily, because they're on really low wages. So the players will want to come to the Premier League. And the Italian clubs will sell because they need the money and they want the money as well. if they have a player and he's fit and he's on top of his game, he's a game away from being injured, and all of a sudden they don't get 30, 40, 50 million, whatever. So I think deals can be made in January. We've done it in Italy time and time again. And I've said this years ago, before we bought Kulusevski and Bentancur. If we buy any player that's a bit Champions League experienced, our squad will look very, very different. Our team will look very different and will perform a lot better. And that's what we need. We need just a bit of quality to add, like we added Kulusevski and Bentancur. I think for me, it's not about quantity, it's more about quality. I feel we have to emphasize on that. I don't want to buy, even though I'm happy that we're buying youth and we're looking into that, because it was poor at times in the past. I like we're doing that, but I think we need just to balance it out with a bit more quality, a bit more experience. Like Solanke was, we need just a bit more of that. If we can get 1 or 2 in this January, I'll be happy. But yeah, I just mentioned Dorgu because he's the one on top of my head that I can list off a target that I look at sometimes. There's Reinders from AC Milan. I like him. He's a good midfielder, scores. You know, I like Rafa Leao, who the AC Milan fans don't like for some reason. He's Portuguese, winger, fast, and would be a very good replacement for Son eventually. I don't know of many else, to be honest. From the Premier League, there's a few that I would take, but you just don't know if the Premier League clubs will sell to you at this point in time.
Melvin, you mentioned Son there. There seems to be some very, very harsh comments about our captain right now, saying he's finished, get rid. I know you kind of said, well, some comments the other day. Is it the time to let Son go, or do Spurs keep him for another year, or do they offer him a new contract? What do you think the best solution is here?
I've had a week, and it's like I was angry when I said that. You know, after a defeat. Or it was a draw, actually. It wasn't even a defeat.
It felt like one.
And it felt like one. And I think we were miserable at the time. And Chris, you were cranky too. So
I was miserable. Absolutely miserable, yeah.
So when I said those comments after that week, I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I mean, Son is a great player. Son is world class on his day, and he still is. But I just feel he's been overused this season. He should have been protected more, should have been rotated more. And I think it's not Postecoglou's fault, because he brought in Wilson Odobert, which would have limited Son's minutes. And Werner didn't step up at all this season. I feel that if Son played probably, I don't know, 1/3 less this season, he'd be a lot sharper, a lot quicker. He'd have less fatigue, less injuries. But we've just not been able to do that to him. And if you think the numbers Salah is putting up, his numbers are still up there, Chris. I just looked at his goals and assists. He's still putting up numbers. And the Son that played the last game is just not him. Chances like at Chelsea, he had a chance. Versus Chelsea, had a chance. He usually buries those. He's quite clinical. He's always outperforming his XG year after year. Son's a great player, and I just feel he's exhausted, and we've even mentally, I feel he's exhausted. He stayed at the club when he could have left. I think the club now needs to be, in a way, loyal. He was loyal to us. We need to be loyal to him. Listen, if he wants to stay, it's his decision. If he wants to stay, give him a contract. Give him 2-3 years, but make it clear to him, we're gonna phase you out. So we'll play you when we need you. When you're fit and when you're sharp, you will play, and you will still remain captain. You know, play with the kids, play with the youth, bring them through, help the new wingers we have, help Johnson, help Odobert settle in. You know, teach them, let them learn of you. That's what we need. We need experience. Son Davies and Timo Werner are the only players plus 400 appearances, league appearances, or the rest are near 200 and under 100. It shows how young we are and how early we are in our project. To have Ben Davies, Heung-min Son, and Timo Werner, your 3 most experienced players.
Melvin, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we look forward to having you on the podcast very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All the best.
See you, mate.
We're now going to go to Gary Maloney. Gary, how are you?
Lads, how are you? All right, I'm very well, thanks. Oh, I look a bit blurry for some reason. That's weird.
No, you always look like that.
Yeah. You've always got a Tottenham logo on. You're in your Tottenham dressing gown. How are you feeling about Spurs right now?
I'm all right. I'm not too bad. I think, you know what? I was one of the few fans actually where I wasn't too disappointed. You know, I was at the Wolves game. When I left, I wasn't too disappointed in that game. You know yourself, last season, we lost home and away to them, and our home performance last season to Wolves, I don't think was anywhere near as good as this season. I actually felt we actually deserved to win that game. We played quite well. I think he changed it slightly in the fact that we did sit back a bit. And up until that goal, I thought we defended all right. I honestly felt not too downhearted with that game. Obviously, I wanted a win. You could pick out and say maybe Gray should have followed the man back. Foster should have maybe done better with that. You know, all right, on another day, we could have won it. I feel okay with Tottenham at the moment. I'm still relatively positive. I think you have to just say to yourself, Chris, and I know people say it's an excuse, but we are down to the bare bones, mate. We've got a lot of massive, really important players out, and I think it's easy to forget.
We are, Gary. We are, but should the club have done more in the summer transfer window?
Oh, of course they should have done more. But every window, Chris, we're always going to say Spurs should have done more. This is just an ongoing thing. But I think we have been very, very unfortunate with injuries. But you do have to look at all of those injuries, which the majority are hamstring injuries. And you have to say, well, where does the blame lie? Is it the club? Is it Ange? You know, is it Levy? It's too much of a coincidence, you know. And I don't think it's any coincidence that Cooley's not injured. It's mainly the centre-backs, defenders that are having to then run backs and stuff. And they're the ones that are getting the injuries. And it's very, very... I think I'm more frustrated with the injuries than the results this season. I think that would be a fair comment, if I'm honest, where I stand. I don't think all in all the results have been that bad this season. But I just think the injuries have just been an absolute joke. And I'm worried going into January with this window, because we've got to get a goalkeeper. There's no two ways about it, but I don't know if we will.
Sorry, Craig, before you come in, Gary, you brought up the goalkeeper. Sam Johnston is being linked with Tottenham right now. We don't know whether it's going to be a possible loan until the end of the season, or Spurs could get a permanent deal done. Wolves paid £10 million for him 5 months ago. Yeah. Sam Johnston, 31 years old, got Premier League experience with, of course, West Brom, Crystal Palace, and now Wolves, 4 England caps. What do you make of this news, Gary? Are you happy?
I am pretty happy, because I think it would be an upgrade from Foster. And I did have a little look at his stats. He's kept 15 clean sheets. He saved the penalty. And the most important factor with his stats is no goalkeeping errors leading to goals. And I think that's a positive. And I think, look at the situation we're in. I think at the moment, when you're looking at Fraser Foster, you know, you talk about Sam, he's 31. Fraser Foster's nearly 37. And I mean, people may differ on that second goal for me, but for me, he has to do better. You know, he has to come out, try and make it difficult for the guy. You know, what frustrated me with that, and look, I know I don't know who was meant to be on that man. I don't know if it was Reguilon or Gray or whoever, but let's talk about Fraser Foster in that situation. And when that goal goes in, don't get me wrong, he struck the ball really, really well. But Fraser Foster actually does this. He actually turns away his face from the goal. Now, any Premier League goalkeeper, as far as I'm concerned, should not be doing that. So for me, you come out, you make it difficult for the guy before he takes the shot. You do not turn away. You know, he's 6'7", for Christ's sake. You know, you should be making it difficult for him. So for me, I think Sam Johnston, look, I saw earlier, you put the update. I had a little look at his stats and stuff, and why not? Let's go for it. If he's there and he's available, I'd get him straight in. I really, really would. Yeah.
Gary, although we discussed it in our group chat, but if Jack Grealish was offered at a reasonable price, would you take Jack Grealish in this window?
Yeah, I would. I would personally. I think he just would fit into Tottenham perfectly, you know. And I know he's not been great since he's gone to City, but I think a lot of that is how Pep wants him to play and stuff like that. And he's not been given a lot of game time. But I do honestly feel if we got him at Spurs, I think he would shine, and I think it would be a good move. But again, it's the wages and stuff, isn't it? That would be the major issue. But for me, I think Grealish would fit straight into our system, and I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a really, really good addition.
Gary, what is the absolute minimum that Spurs need to do in this winter window? Because as Ange Postecoglou has said many times, particularly in the last couple of weeks, we need help.
Yeah. we need help mentally, all of us as fans as well. I think the bare minimum, we need a goalkeeper, a centre back, a left back, and we probably even need a backup striker. But that's 4. We're not going to get 4.
There's a lot to do, exactly. We're not going to do all that business in a January window, are we?
There's loads to do, and we're not going to do anywhere near that, are we? Let's be honest with you. But I think certainly a centre back and a goalkeeper is a must. You know, it's a must. I know it's difficult in January. I get that, and some could blame Ange should have seen that in the summer. Okay, maybe, you know, that argument is there. I get it, but look, it is what it is. We are where we are, and we have to try and do as much as we physically can. But I don't want it to be the same old story, Chris. We're waiting to the last day of the transfer window. We're trying to save 5 million. You know, we're trying to get in these loans. You know, players that, you know, maybe in a year or two. This is, you know, at the moment, and we've spoken about this a lot, it's not the end all at the moment, because we're still all in all the cup competitions. And I guess there's still a slight chance that we could still get European football. But you know yourself, mate, you know, if we lose and lose badly to Liverpool in the first leg of that Carabao Cup, that's when things are going to go really bad. I think almost at the moment, he's got almost a little bit of leeway with league results. As I say, I do honestly think, you know, the Forest and the Wolves game, I don't think we was played off the park, and I think we was unlucky to lose against Forest, and I think we was unlucky to lose against a draw against Wolves. I think where the issue for me is in some of those other games, which wasn't acceptable, which was Ipswich at home, which was away to Brighton, which was the Palace away. They were unacceptable for me.
Do you know one thing that has bothered me quite a lot during the season is that so many fans said that the players look tired so early on in the season, and Anne just said it in the last month or so about the players looking absolutely exhausted because they are playing week in, week out. But what really bothers me is the fact that some of these players look so tired at the start of the season.
Yeah, and I know people are going on about Son, oh, he's tired, you know, his age and everything else, but he's same age as Mo Salah. You know, they're playing just as many games and stuff. I don't, you know, at some point you've got to say to yourself, I mean, they are having rest between games and stuff, and they've got the best facilities and recovery out there. I don't know, why are they so tired? I always go back, Chris, to it's the same team that lost at home to Ipswich, which was the same team that absolutely wiped the floor with Man United and City. You know, why are they up for it with some games and not with others? That would be what I'd say. You know, it's almost like they can't really lift their game when it's an average mediocre team. You know, Wolves bottom half of the table, you know, in the relegation zone, didn't really fully go for it. But yet, you know, you get West Ham that come to us and we absolutely batter them. I do question it. I really, really do. You know, I do.
Gary, I know you're, we've spoken about incomings and stuff like that, but can we even afford to let any people go this window that's currently in the club? Look, for example, I know you're a massive Timo Werner fan. Would you like to see Timo stay at the club? We surely still need him, don't we? At the moment?
Well, you know, funny you should say that, because it was.
I was going to say, Gary, the other one that's interesting is that it was a dead cert that Sergio Reguilon was going to be leaving in this window. Do we let him go now?
No, well, I don't think he had a great game when he came on against Wolves, but I think you definitely need to keep Reguilon. I think it's funny, Craig, you said it, because it was only today I was saying to a group of my friends, you know, we should really give Timo Werner a knighthood like Sadiq Khan, because you know how much I love those two people in my life. Listen, look, you know, I feel for Timo. I don't even know what to say about him now. You know, I don't want him. Listen, he's been the scapegoat for weeks, if not months. But I don't know what you say about the guy. He's just not Premier League quality. I think for whatever reason, he's you know.
I think we'll end it there, Gary, of just saying that we need better players in future transfer windows.
We do.
100%.
We need better players. And Craig, you know, to just underline what you said. No, we can't really afford to get rid of anyone. And with that, I'd even put, you know, Timo in that, because we'd probably still need him to come on at some point. And if it just be to run with the ball or hold it up, we need him to do that, because, look, Richarlison comes back. What's he going to last for? A game, 2 games, and then he's out again. Richarlison, when he's fully fit, isn't a bad player, but he can't stay fit. You know, this is the issue we have. Johnston, you know, he's great, but again, hot and cold. Solanke, I think, for me personally, I think Solanke's been amazing this season. I really, really do. You know, and Kulu has been, you know, obviously he's been a player of the season for us. But again, you know, there was a lot of fans moaning about him in the second half against Wolves. But I wonder whether that was because he played so good in the first half. You know, I don't think he had a bad game. I just think there's a level of expectation with Kulusevski now, and he can't do it all the time. It's like Cole Palmer doesn't do it every game for Chelsea. It's just as simple as that, you know?
Gary, very last question for you. I know you're very good at predictions.
Yeah.
I'd like a prediction for the Newcastle game.
Yeah, I almost got the Wolves one right. I was really annoyed with Foster letting that in because I said 2-1 win. I think on the Tottenham-Newcastle game, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a draw. I think the best we can look at that game will be a 2-2. I really hope we can win it, but I think we're probably going to be holding on to a 2-2 draw on that game.
Gary, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you very soon.
Yeah, always. Lovely. Best of luck.
Mate.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, Cal.
Let's now go to John in Essex. John, how are you? I think you're on mute, John. Hello, John. Can you hear me? John, I'll come back to you. Right, we'll go to G in Brazil. G, how are you?
Hi there, Chris. How you going, Craig? Thank you very much
G.
for being on this first show in the format of yours. Very good. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me.
Great to have you here, G. And I've watched some of your opinions with Barnaby, which I've really enjoyed. So thank you so much for coming on the show yet again. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan, and how is life in Brazil supporting Spurs?
How is life anywhere supporting Spurs?
Good question.
Yes, sorry, what was the question?
How are you feeling about the season? How are you feeling about Ange Postecoglou? Because I know when I listened to you before, you were very much, you know, it's not the manager, it's other stuff at the club. You know, where do we go from here? Because things have to be different this time, surely.
Yeah, they do. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm not an Ange out, and I kind of ignore those comments when I see them because I see no substance towards that. I don't see what that's gonna do for us. Whenever we have a manager taken out, it takes us like 3 months to get another one in. So at this rate, we'd end up with Mason probably for the rest of the season, and then I don't know where we'd be with that, to be honest with you. So I kind of ignore that kind of. I don't think there's any substance to those sort of statements. But of course, I understand. You know, we as Spurs fans, we always expect more than what the club can offer. I think that's always been a way with us. But as far as Ange goes, I think we have to give him time, and we've got to give him the players back. You know, he did all right last season. I was quite happy with the way things were going. I thought we progressed. Remember, we didn't have a striker. All he had was Richarlison, in and out. Who I believe will go, actually. I can't see Richarlison staying. I think he's going to be one of those going out soon.
It's only right that you're in Brazil right now to ask you about Richarlison. How do the Brazilians feel about Richarlison there? And if it was your choice, would you keep him or would you sell him?
Well, here he's like, they don't see him in the same light, you know, because he does so well for Brazil. But then again, he's only playing the odd match here and there. They have very high regard for him. I mean, if you walk down the street, every kid looks like Richarlison. I mean, they dyed the hair, and they, you know what I mean? It's exactly the same cut and everything. He's quite of a hero here. But I think for us, as far as we're concerned, I think his injuries has taken over him. I don't dislike the player. I think he's a good player. I think on his day he can be absolutely brilliant. But it's just unfortunate he's got this injury list that extends far beyond this season, and I don't see him recovering from this. You know, he seems to come back and he's one day and he's out with a completely different injury. So there's something. The Premier League's just not right for him anymore. I think he's got to probably go off out to Saudi and make some money or whatever, you know, something like that. Unfortunately, and then we can try and find this so desperately that the backup striker that we need. You know, it's only been this season we've had Solanke.
Yeah,
you know, think about it. And we lost Kane. I was surprised last year how well we did. The fact that we actually got into Europe, I was really genuinely surprised, pleasantly surprised. And I think once we get that again with the team, the substance of the team back, the actual first 11, then that's okay. You know, even when you have a few players out, we get very unstable. You know, it sends the other players out of whack, it seems, you know, even when there's just a couple of players out. But when it's this many, and the players that we have got, you know, like you see Kulu, I mean, he's so tired now. The guy he's probably got his feet up today, you know, just relishing the 1 day extra or 2 days extra that he's getting. But the way the games have been coming in so thick and fast, we can't recover from this. And we just have to take each game as it comes and just look at what we've got and play with that, you know. So I can't put any of that over onto Ange. I think he's doing as well as anyone would do. I can't imagine any manager coming in and doing any better than what he's doing or any different, to be honest with you.
Gee, I mean, look, we know the club have built this, Enoch, Daniel Levy, who you want to call it, built this magnificent stadium. We've got state-of-the-art training facilities. We've got everything you could dream of as a player, right, coming to Spurs. And the club obviously wants us to, the whole idea of the stadium was to push us to that next level. And it's fair to say we haven't quite achieved that. And this might not be an easy one to answer, but what has to happen for us to push for winning titles, for example, to be up there with the Liverpools and the Cities? What needs to happen at Tottenham? Because we're nowhere near it at the moment.
No, I think the foundation's there, though. I think what's happened with the club, as you rightly say, you know, the stadium is probably one of the best in the world, no doubt about it. Training facilities, everything is ready for this to happen. I think, and here we go with the Levy issue and whatever. I think for me, it boils down to that. You know, it boils down to the way the club has been run as the football team inside of it. Okay, I'm not a Levy out person. I've got to be honest. I was, but I'm not. I'm not a Levy out of the business. I think he's okay. That's what he does. He's got the credentials to do that. I'm a Levy, leave the club alone. And I think I've got a funny feeling that finally, after all these years, he's actually letting go of the reins a little bit here. Do you know what I mean? With the people that we have getting more say, you know, Pratt is definitely still there. There's no way he's not in the club anymore. He's on the phone every day, you know, like for sure, you know. I think he is letting go, and I'd like to see that, and we're going to see that now. We're going to see that in this window, and for me, the only window that counts, which is the summer one, because nobody will ever get rid of their best players or anywhere near the players that we need in a winter wonderland. And I agree actually with what Barnaby said on something that I saw earlier, what he was saying about, and it's kind of a trend now where the players are running out of contract, you know, and this I think is a good thing as well, especially for the winter transfer, because this can spur people on to take the money in or whatever that they might just be losing out for us. We reiterated about some of the players, you know, TAA, not that you come to us, but do you know what I mean? And those sort of players. So maybe we might be lucky and a good business end of it could actually see some of those players coming our way if we're fortunate enough, you know.
Gee, where do you stand on Tottenham's league position at the moment, being mid-table? Because I feel like the second, you know, if it does happen that Spurs go out of a cup competition, then I feel like more pressure will be on Ange Postecoglou, you know, because I feel like so many people are expecting him to deliver a trophy in that second season. I know he's come out and said, you know, I always win in my second season, but I think that there is a real big expectation that he's going to deliver that, despite there being so much negativity about him this season.
Yeah, I'm gutted about the position. If you just look at the position, it's not good. I don't think that we respectively should be there. If we had a full 11, first off, that's without backup. We need the backup players as well, of course. It's an ongoing situation of a project that we're just really in very, very first part of its infancy. So, yeah, of course, it's not good. I think we always stand a chance, and any club always stands a chance when you get so far in the cup competition, especially when you're up to the semi-finals. You never know. But I don't base a lot on that. I don't think that you can expect cups anyway in the first couple of years of a rebuild. I don't think it's something you should be guaranteed of, you know, or expect. I think that you should have. But the league position is very interesting because we do need that top 4 or 5 slot. You know, I mean, we got into Europe in our first year with Angie in control. You know, without Kane, all we've got is Robin, and he's not the same without Kane. And we need to replace these. I'm talking about Son, of course, but we need to start to replace these players and get with Son's position as well. So I think with our league position, I can't see it really changing too much, especially in the next few weeks. You know, to between 3.6, I saw on average games apart. We play the least amount of time between games, 12 games in a row, where we were averaging out 3.6 days apart. That's horrendous, you know, especially in our position as well. So the league table for me projects that, you know, it just mirrors that really. I don't see where else we could be, you know, with all we've had to deal with or what we're going through, you know. I'm gutted. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I do not like it at all. You know, I'm gutted when we lose, of course. I'm in tears. I have a bad 2 days, and you know, like the rest of us. But I'm not. I can't find the words right now, Chris. Sorry, I've got Portuguese running around in my head right now as well. I'm not really upset, or I'm upset, but I'm not really concerned. I think it will happen. I think once we get our players back, the injuries come back round, and then we start this process, especially in January now, we've got this process where we can start to bolster up what's needed, you know, to get those. That's
pretty much what Andrew said, isn't it? You completely agree with what his comments have been then?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't make him out to be the Messiah. You know, I don't know yet. I don't think we've given him the time and the equipment and the tools to be able to do it, you know, anyway. But I think he's right in that. And I think it makes perfect sense, you know, in a scientific way of thinking about it. You know, it's as it is, you know. You can't imagine any of the other teams out there, Liverpool's, any of those trying to go out with those 10 players. What would be there? Where would they be in that? You know, and other players, sides have also succumbed to the likes of Brighton. I think wasn't it Arsenal or something, or Chelsea lost to them, and Brighton, Bournemouth. And I'm just picking on one team here, but other teams, you know, like they have their bad days. You know, Liverpool too. You know, but we've got a lot to overcome here, just purely by the injuries, and that's all I can say really on that. You know, it's all down to that, and that's it. I know people say, "Oh, it's a bad cop out," and that, but it's the truth. You know, you can't be running, as I've said before, you can't be running a kit car in a Grand Prix. You know, you're not going to get anywhere with that.
This comment on the screen here, what's your views on this? It's Levy spends money, and what more do we want from a chairman? It's not Levy's fault as long as he sticks with Ange and invests in the project. G, would you say that's fair? Because people criticising Daniel Levy for not spending money. We have spent money. Historically in the past, we've spent a lot of money. It's just been in the wrong areas and bought in wrong players, which is going to happen. You can't get them all right. Do you think Daniel Levy gets too much undue stick, or do you think it's justified? And do you think ultimately, as the head of the business, he's the one to blame and it's got to carry the can?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, but I think more so that he needs to leave. As I said before, it's the football inside. There's been times when we haven't had a manager and he's gone buying players. You know, like I would do the same. I defy anybody here, any of us, if we were like multimillionaires and we had control of that club, that we wouldn't get our hands filthy dirty over wanting to buy this player or looking at that or trying to do things. That he's not an expert on this. He's never played the game. He's never managed the game. He's never been any part of the game. So therefore, why would he have the credentials to do that? And I get the business side of it. I understand. Give us the money, yes, but give it to the people that should be spending it. You know, make sure the manager and those guys get what they want. Don't take it on yourself and go, oh, look, I've got this here or whatever, which seems to be the way it's done, you know. And I don't know because I'm not there, but I can only think that must be the way, because we've had the evidence of that. The amount of players that he's bought or sacked a manager and not had a replacement for 2-3 months. There seems no force. There's no foresight on that. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, he needs to leave the club alone. He needs to get on with the business side of the club and leave the team alone. Sorry, not the club. He needs to leave the team alone. Let the professionals do that side of the business, you know. Yeah, cough up the money, absolutely. Every club needs the money, you know. But that's the way I've seen it, unfortunately. Yeah.
G, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we look forward to having you on the show again soon. I know we've got you booked in for an episode of the Spurs Chat podcast in the next couple of weeks, so we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you very much, Chris, and well done with the show. Well done, guys, and the other guys as well on before. Absolutely brilliant game. Really enjoyed what they had to say, and it was very good. Thank you very much. Take care, guys, and Happy New Year. Come on, you.
Cheers, G. Happy New Year.
Cheers.
We're now going to go to Darren Altman. Darren, how are you?
Hello, guys. Not too bad,
Darren.
Not too bad. Look at your lovely faces. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Darren, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now? And of course, we've got Newcastle up next, the early kickoff on Saturday. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Well, I am. This will make you laugh. As her Christmas present, I am taking my eldest, Callie. So we will be there. How am I feeling? Honestly, I said to her, she said, "Oh, I forgot about that, Dad. We're going to Spurs." I said, "Don't get your hopes up." I'm not feeling too good, to be honest. I'm not feeling too optimistic. They're on an absolute roll. They beat Leicester 4-0. They beat Brentford 3-1. They battered Ipswich away 4-0. They beat Aston Villa 3-0. They beat Man United 2-0 away. They're absolutely flying. They're playing great football. Isak's, scoring goals for fun. Like I said to you when you asked me about how, what do you think of the Nottingham Forest game? And I said I'd be happy with a 2-2 draw. I'm feeling that if we could come away, even though we're at home, with a draw against Newcastle, I think with our depleted squad, we're down to the bare bones. I really think that would be a good result. I think we're not in a good shape at the moment, and like if you've been said, by the way, your guests have all been brilliant, by the way. I've been watching the lot, and some really great insights, some really great comments. I think that we need our players back. We desperately need our players back, and until we get the whole squad singing again and getting a tune out of everyone, I don't know. I think we'll be holding on, really.
What game would you prioritise, Darren, or do you think we should prioritise the Newcastle or the Liverpool?
Well, for me, the Liverpool game. I mean, it's all about there's a man sitting next to you in that direction who uses the T word for fun, and he's absolutely right. We need trophies
because we need one.
Absolutely. Christmas has come and gone. We're into that no man's land now, and we need some joy in our lives, and we absolutely need to prioritize this home leg. I don't want to be the harbinger of doom, but if Liverpool turn up and do a job on us, it's going to make it really hard going to Anfield, really hard. So, you used the word prioritise, Craig. It's difficult, isn't it? We just haven't got the squad. We just haven't got the squad at the moment. All right, okay. Say you rest a couple of players in Newcastle, to try and prioritise the Liverpool game. Who are you resting, and who are you picking, and who are you not picking?
Darren, I don't want to come across as a little bit of a moaner here and be miserable, but we saw that we had injury problems last season. And in the summer, I said that we didn't do enough in the summer transfer window, and a couple of injuries to key players again, we are again going to be in a mess. Are you surprised? And I don't want to keep harping on about it, but are you surprised that the club didn't do more in the summer, particularly what happened last year?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we desperately. Gary said we need a goalkeeper. Yes, we do. But for me, the striker, Solanke has been playing, out of his skin. What he does off the ball is as important as what he does on the ball. For me, he needs to get more goals, but that's a contentious decision. But we desperately need a striker. I heard you talking about Son. Whether he gets that extension or not, we need someone on that left-hand side. It goes without saying that Timo Werner isn't good enough on there. We need someone to cover that position. We need a replacement centre back. We need a left back. So in answer to your question, absolutely, we're down to our bare bones. We've got injuries left, right, and centre. And for me, the striker is the one. The striker's the one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It really is a tough one. I mean, I want a trophy more than just as much as anybody else, but I can see the league position as well. You know, you don't want to be. I said it earlier. You don't want to be 17th and win a cup. Is that progression? Would you take that? Personally, I don't think that wouldn't be enough for me. If we're finishing 17th. You know?
Can I also add to that, Darren, the fact that you seem a little bit despondent about us as a squad because of the amount of injuries, but when we do have everyone fit and available, are you very much behind Ange Postecoglou, his style, the way that he wants to play, the entertainment? Because we've had a couple of guests on already saying that the entertainment is more for the neutral and not the Spurs fans because of the types of results that we've had. Are you fully on board with Ange Postecoglou?
I am, and I've said when we've chatted on our little group, and I've said when I've been on the pod before, Chris, I am, because you cannot. I've forgotten who it was. One of your earlier guests used the word merry-go-round, and you cannot go round and round and round in circles. Levy's been chairman since 2001. We've had 17 managers during that period. 17 managers in 24 years. That's not even 2 years each on an average. What do? You sack Ange, and then who'd you get in? We go round and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. You've got, all right, a lot of players are using the expression found out. They're saying no plan B. We're hearing the same rhetoric over and over again. I think that in answer to your question, Chris, when we are firing, I don't want to say no team can touch us, but we've beaten the best. We've beaten Man U away. We've beaten Man City away. We've proved we can do it. Teams will shit themselves. So if once we've got all our players, absolutely we can go toe to toe. Sorry, I know why you're smiling because it's the first expletive of the evening. Sorry. It was mild. It was mild. Let's not. We're all grown men. So I'm definitely Ange in. I think he needs time, and I think this is why we need players, because this style of football, is absolutely. I won't say or bust. It is. It's hell for leather, isn't it? And we're going to get. Don't forget, a lot of the injuries that we've had aren't injuries that they've incurred through challenges. These are players that are pulling up.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Van der Ven, haven't we? Where he's just in mid-run and he stops and grabs his hamstring. It's matador football. We need a fully fit squad. And I am confident that with our fully fit squad, we can go on and do what we did at the beginning of the season, which is batter teams. I think we're in a really, really tough spot now, and that's why Levy needs to invest. Whether he needs to, he definitely needs one or two players in this window. Obviously, it's the winter window, it's the January window. But come summer, he can't just go sacking Ange again. He needs to keep Ange, put his hand in his pocket and get proper players for the positions that everyone knows that we need in.
Darren, last question for you. Score prediction for the Newcastle game Saturday?
Again, I would take a 2-2 draw. And the thing with the Spurs crowd, you know what it's like. You go to games day in, day out, Chris. Once we do go a goal behind, and God forbid we go 2 goals behind, our crowd goes into their shell, and I don't want that. We need to be all guns blazing and keep the momentum going for the Liverpool game as well. And then of course the North London derby. It's all thick and fast. It really is.
Darren, thank you so much for joining us. You're always fantastic. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh, I don't do social media, Chris. TikTok, Darren Altman. Instagram, Darren Altman _VO. Available for weddings, bar mitzvahs. I sing, I dance, I tap dance. A song and a smile. That's what you get with me, Chris.
Why did I ask? Darren, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Lots of love. Take care. Cheers, Craig.
Cheers, buddy.
Darren's absolutely right. The guests on this evening on this fan show have been absolutely fantastic. If you'd like to get involved in a future episode, please do send me an email. It is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. Let's now go to our next guest. We've got Gary with us. Gary, how are you?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'm fine. You all right?
All good, thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Hi,
How are
Gary.
you feeling as a
yourself?
Spurs fan right now?
Yeah. We get used to it, don't we? It's no good moaning and groaning. You know, we've had it for years, ups and downs, and we all love the team and we just have to go with it, really. It's no good saying anything too drastic.
What would you say progression would be, Gary, this season under Ange Postecoglou, given that we have had so many injury problems this season?
Well, it's difficult in January to go and spend money unnecessarily and buy the wrong players. It's what players are actually out there. I would say get Grealish in at any cost, you know, just to give a bit of, you know, showbiz, a bit of waz, you know, rather than just an average player. You know, it's a gamble, but if it's loan, you haven't got the risk of paying wages for years on end and massive transfer fees. You know, you got possibly a Rashford. You know, I don't know whether he's interested, but I think probably loans of good quality players that have just fallen out of the managers are a better option than buying second-rate players just to fill in the gaps.
Do you think we spoke about it before? The left back's got to be a priority in this window, Gary. It's got to be, surely, isn't it?
I live in Bournemouth, and I watch Bournemouth quite a bit. And I've actually emailed the Tottenham board. I won't say who I've emailed because I don't want people to start emailing the person. But I've highlighted 2 Bournemouth players a year ago, and one was Semenyo, which now everyone's talking about, and Milo Kirkes, which is a fantastic left back. And now, again, everyone's after him. You know, you look at Bournemouth, they've got some very, very good wanted players. And in fact, they've got a really good manager as well. So I think and also Mark Travers as a goalkeeper. No one really knows about him. He's the number 2, but he was a number 1 for ages until new managers came in. And he played a blinder against Tottenham and a couple of teams. And, you know, the Kepa came back, and he's pushed out. There is quite a few good players. I mean, I only know it because I watch Bournemouth as much as Tottenham because I live 10 minutes from the stadium. I do get to Tottenham occasionally, and I watch, obviously, if Tottenham's on the Bournemouth, so I always watch Tottenham. But there is some, you know, and look where Bournemouth are in the table. It's not a fluke.
Gary, Martin says here, where's our academy? I've said this on a couple of the podcasts recently that, you know, last year, the under-21s won 2 trophies at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium back in May, which was an absolute delight to see trophies lifted at our stadium. I have said on a number of occasions that is probably the best youth team that I've seen in many, many years watching the youth team. Are you surprised that Ange Postecoglou hasn't used a lot more of our younger players, particularly that we have had so many injuries? I know some of them are out on loan, but of course some of them are very much still with us. They've had opportunities, you know, a couple of opportunities, but are you surprised that they haven't had more?
Not really, because are they actually ready to be put in for like 90 minutes? They might have a little cameo role, you know, just to get them in 10, 15 minutes. You know, they did sort of push Mickey Moore till he got a virus. And I don't know whether they're ready, you know, to actually be relied on to put in place. You know, I can get the cup matches and, you know, a little bit of a role, but we really need players ready to go at the top level to be where we want to be, you know. And I think maybe for a future show, which I did put my email to you, maybe we should rate our players as in world class, very good, good, or get rid of. And I think maybe we'll have a better idea of where we actually are with
Gary,
the players.
There's no time like the present. Come on, give me some ratings. Who are not good enough in your opinion?
Not good enough, Richarlison. I mean, you know, we paid a ridiculous amount of money for him. You know, he shows little bits, isn't it? He's definitely not good enough. I would tell, you know, I think Kulusevski is at the top. I think, you know, he probably would get into big teams. I think Romero, Van der Ven and Doggy are just slightly under that. But I'd definitely say, obviously Timo Werner, I feel sorry for him. I think he's really upset. I don't sort of boo him, and that man's a bit distressed. I'm sure he's upset of his performance, and I always think bring Timo on. Maybe this time he runs down the wing, but that last ball and missing those goals, So I think unfortunately, is his one to go, and I don't know whether Son will stay. I don't know whether Son will be happy with being taken off and maybe not given a 2-year contract. Maybe he'll, think I'm not the top dog anymore. He's not going to score 30 goals like he did, so maybe, he won't be happy with just a 1-year extension. And I don't really think we should pay out a 2-year contract and pay him 200 grand a week. We're tying up a lot of money. So I'm not saying he's not good enough, but I'm not saying he'll be happy with what Tottenham are going to offer him. Well, what do you guys think? Who do you think should be?
Do you not think Gary? Well, do you not think Gary with Son? Yes, he's a couple of years older, but do you not think it shows? Because I genuinely think this. It shows how well him and Harry Kane played together. Because when Kane didn't play, even when he was at the club, Son wasn't as good. It was like they were so well connected, weren't they? I just think he's suffering because he's getting a couple of years older.
That was a magical partnership. They both knew who each other was, and we couldn't keep Kane for obvious reasons. He's gone on to better things than what he thinks. And it's hard to bring. It's like having a comedians, and when they're a partnership, and when one leaves, they're not that good on their own. Then they
like
need to side. Morecambe and Wise.
Laurel and Hardy.
I'll tell you what, Gary. One player that I want to see a lot more of, and that is James Maddison. And one thing that will be really, really interesting is this coming Saturday, Thomas Tuchel, of course, he's just taken the England job officially. It is the first game that he will be attending as England manager to watch his players. So Tottenham, Newcastle on Saturday. If James Maddison is in that starting 11 for Spurs, I would imagine that he would give absolutely everything. And I don't want to see him just giving everything because the England manager is there and he wants to impress. He should be impressing week in, week out. I do expect a lot more from someone like James Maddison. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't get what doesn't motivate them. They could be playing in a big London derby. They could be playing and they just don't, not just any particular player, but generally some of the players just don't seem to play for the shirt like the old days. A lot of them are mercenaries. I think Son plays for the shirt, and I think Son will always love Tottenham. I think Maurice years ago, he played for the shirt, and he still would have that, a bonding for the club. But there's not that many now. They come and go. They're not like, they get their wages. If it all goes wrong, they leave the club somewhere down there. It's not as important to have that badge. Some players really get it. I think Ben Davies has been a great servant. He's been always there when I know he's out injured at the moment, but when he gets left out, he comes back when needed. I think he plays for the shirt, but there are so many that don't really care. And if it doesn't go well, especially the foreign players, they just, I think a lot of them are mercenaries in a lot of clubs. And I think that maybe gives their performance, they're not that motivated like they used to be.
It does seem to be very different. Yeah, I agree with you. I've said this, for a number of years now. When players are subs, I feel like some of them are not that bothered not to be playing. And if I was a professional footballer and I wasn't in that starting 11, I wouldn't be happy. I'd work even harder to get in that starting 11. But I just don't feel there is that desire. I'm not just saying it was Spurs, over the recent years. I'm saying it, football in general. Gary, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Can I just ask one last question for you guys? Do you really think Tottenham want to sell? Do you think Levy does want to sell to the right bidder? Because I'm not sure. I mean, I can't understand why if it is for sale, something like Bezos of Amazon Stadium, Elon Musk, Tesla Stadium. It does sound good, doesn't it? And they got so much money.
Yeah, I don't think the club is for sale.
No.
I think that they would entertain investment, and that has been reported a number of times, but I don't think the football club is for sale. And I think that it would be an extremely complicated sale if the club ever did go on the market, but I can't see it happening. Craig, do you want to answer that one as well?
I do tend to agree it would be very, very difficult, but everything's got its price. I think if somebody came along with X amount, whatever that X is, then they will sell, because I think everything's for sale at the right price. And Daniel Levy, I would imagine, values the club I don't know, I'm going to pluck this figure out in the air, 3 to 4 billion. I've heard different figures, but somebody comes, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk decides they want a plaything and they want to buy a Premiership football club. And Elon Musk comes along and says, right, Daniel, I'm going to give you 3.5 billion now. Does he take it? I think they do. Yeah. Because they've made a tidy profit. But in answer to your question, I don't think it's actively for sale and on the market, but they clearly are looking for a certain investment. But I don't see naming rights being a thing either soon.
And I think even if big money was brought in, that fair play is got a bit more teeth now than it had when Abramovich was around and Sheikh Mansour was around. They could seem to have navigated it a little bit. I think you look at Newcastle, they're watching them like a hawk, what they can spend. So I think even if we did get a massive influx, we wouldn't be able to just go and buy players that, at willy-nilly and just do what was done in years ago. I think we missed the boat after the Champions League. We should have, the Champions League final. I think the next season that Poch went, I think we should have reinvested then and sort of built on that. I think that's what we made our big mistake in the last 5 years, not going to the next level when we got so far.
I've always said, Gary, I'm not one of those whingy fans to keep saying that we need to go out and spend hundreds of millions of pounds. It is definitely the right players, because we've seen before, Craig mentioned about, we've spent a lot of money in the past. 2 players come to mind, Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, £100 million on them two combined.
I could tell you a worse one, Janssen.
Yeah, there's a lot. We could go on all night about players. Yeah, there's a lot. Gary, we'll definitely have you back on again in the future. So thanks so much for coming on.
All right, nice. Good New Year to you all, and thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Gary.
Cheers, Gary. Bye.
Craig, these are fantastic guests that we've had on so far.
But I was just thinking that they're all brilliant guests. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Let's see if we can get John back. John, are you with us?
Hello, yeah. Can you hear me?
No, that's better. That's better.
Happy New Year, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, and to you. I'm doing good, thank you.
How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
I'm okay. I'm fine with it. I've played football myself since the age of 10 all my life. I still play now in the Dutch League, and I understand when you've got 8 to 10 players injured for a couple of months, I don't expect us to win often at all. I mean, 3 weeks ago, Barnaby asked me if we could now go on a run after our last win, and I said definitely not possible with the injuries we've got. I'll give Ange a front pass with it all because of that. I mean, if anyone that knows about football, you can't have 8 players. Liverpool would be top if they didn't have Van Dijk, Gomez, Robertson, Alisson. They wouldn't be top of the league. Arsenal wouldn't be where they are without their defenders. It's a nightmare for them. A lot of fans will hate me for saying it, but I would rip his contract up, Ange, and I'd be happy to give him a 5-year one. I love him.
You're very much on board then.
Yeah,
very much.
It's refreshing.
And
it's really refreshing to hear, John, actually, because there's so many people in there at the moment
it kills me.
That are Ange out. It drives me insane.
I have to come off Facebook after a game when I just have a little look and 1-0 down, 2-1. Everyone hit him out. He ain't got a clue. They've worked us out. All this, they've worked us out. How have they worked us out when we're having 7 or 8 on target? The gamble with Tottenham is we're always going to give goals away, so our forwards have got to be clinical. If they're not, then we are in trouble. That's how I look at it. And with the going back to the Carabao Cup, I personally would always rather Champions League football than the Carabao Cup. That has gone right downhill for me. I want us to win it for all the Tottenham fans and to get the monkey off their back. But for me personally, it means nothing to me. When you've got championship teams resting players to play in that cup, that tells me all I need to know about that club. We beat Man City with Haaland on the bench. That takes something away from that win for me. They didn't play their best team. And for me, that makes that cup, that dilutes that cup. FA Cup, I'll take all day. But yeah, the Carabao Cup, I won't be crowing from the rooftops if we won it.
Should it matter, John? Should it matter about how we've won a cup?
To me, it does. I'm a bit of a romantic. That's why I love Ange. I brought up on all the attacking football from the age of 5. I watched this in the old second division, playing Mansfield at home, and I love that we've always played attacking football, other than with Conte and Mourinho, which killed me watching them. But I love Ange. I love the way he wants to play, and I think with 2 or 3 more players in the summer, fully fit squad, we're going to do good things with him. I really believe that.
John, what do you say to the doubters about Ange Postecoglou? Because it's fair to say there's a lot of doubters at the moment.
Yeah, there is a lot. But like I said, I know it sounds like excuses, but tell me a manager who can get you winning 4 or 5 games in a row when you've got 9 of your squad out injured. 3 centre-halves he hasn't had for God knows how long. The goalkeeper he's not had. But with a full squad and a couple of new additions, I think we'll be fine. We can beat anyone. Like I said before, we can beat anyone. We can lose to anyone. But given time, we won't be losing to anyone.
John, you seem really confident about Ange then. Have you followed his career before?
I have.
Dare I say, heard of Ange? Or?
I have looked into it, and it's pretty much like he said. I prefer to think of it. He didn't say, I win in my second season. He said, I've won in my second seasons, which, like you said earlier, is fact. He had. And he probably wishes he didn't say it, but it's been turned around a little bit, as if he said, I always win my second season. But no, honestly, I love the guy. I think I don't want to watch Tottenham. I don't want to watch Tottenham playing a crap game where we get no chances and we win 1-0 with a header from a corner in the 90th minute. I'm different like that. I would forget the 3 points. It's all about performance for me. And it's like I say to my mates, I would worry when you're not creating chances. If you get beat 1-0, 2-0, you don't create any chances, there's something wrong. But if we lose 2-1, we hit the bar twice and miss 2 1-on-1s with a keeper, I'm pretty happy. Because another time, they go in.
John, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you so much for joining Barnaby a couple of times that you have so far. And we look forward to having you on again very soon.
Lovely. Thanks very much.
Cheers, John.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
A very positive fan about Ange Postecoglou, Craig.
Yeah,
we don't get many of them.
No, that was probably the most positive fan I think we've ever had on here, actually, about Ange. Which is, it's good to hear both ends, isn't it?
We're now going to go to Colin in Canada. I tell you what, there are Spurs fans all over the world. Colin, how are you? Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Craig. Great to see you guys. Great to be on.
There you go.
Great to have you here. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now, Colin? And what's it like supporting Spurs in Canada?
There's more Spurs fans in Canada than you might think. I mean, I was on vacation this summer and we walked into a restaurant and a guy was wearing a Spurs shirt. And so football is pretty popular with a certain group of people, I think, in Canada, North America. I mean, we have our own league as well, right, with the MLS. And so a lot of people are English Premier fans in the area in Canada, which I live, which is we're about 30 kilometers outside of Toronto. So, yeah, you see a lot of football fans for sure. So what's it like
Colin,
to be sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask Colin, what have you made of the season so far under Ange?
I regret I missed the first part of the discussion. I was away. I just got back. I don't know. I'm confused a little bit. I don't know. It's like his pedigree is as yet unproven at this level, and I find that people are talking about it being exciting football, and it can be exciting football, but it's not super exciting football for Spurs fans. I think perhaps in many ways it's less exciting for us than it is for other people who are tuning in to watch the team. I'm not a hater, and I'm not on the we should fire Ange bandwagon. We've been down that road before. We pulled the trigger on these major decisions, and look at Forrest right now. That's with a guy that we gave 17 games. So, but honestly, I don't know. I think the jury's still out on. We have to see how we come through this, and we have to see whether when we get everybody back. I think the previous gentleman has said, I think in many ways maybe we are a couple of players away. When you look at all the guys that we're missing right now, and we're looking at people that brought things like Odebear and stuff that were new things to the club, and we're thin, and we're in trouble. I mean, I think Fraser has done an amazing job stepping in. I won't broker any criticism of him. I think he's been great, but we've got a number one keeper that maybe needs to be pushed a little bit in some ways as well. And so I think there's lots of things going on. I don't know how optimistic I am right now, but I haven't sort of bailed on the present program.
What do you make of this one? This great username, by the way, Hippo Nerd. Back Ange, there is no gain without pain. How much longer, Colin, have we got to suffer this pain, would you think? How long before this comes together?
Well, I mean, how much patience do people have? I mean, how low can we go on the table, right? So then it becomes a question of how are they going to address the issue? And there's usually a very typical way that sports organizations address these sort of issues, right? They can't fire the team. They're not going to fire themselves. So how long does it last? I don't know. Like how much patience do people have? Are we okay with 14th this year? Are we okay with being below United, below some of those middle teams? I don't know. I mean, honest answer is I don't know. I can't see it lasting till the end of the year if it's like this, but I don't know, because what I said was that, okay, we fire Ange, and then what? Then what do we do? What happens after that?
From what we understand, though, Colin, at the moment, is the club are very much backing Ange Postecoglou, despite the league position and despite, these performances. And it's got to you got to take in consideration all of the injuries that we've had. But does that change? I've said to a couple of the guests already. Does that change? Does the attitude change the minute if we go out of cup competitions?
Being here, I don't know how, in where you live, how valued are those cups? The gentleman beforehand was talking about, he said he didn't really care about the Carabao Cup. He was more interested in the FA Cup. So for me, from the North American perspective, I guess it's a chance to win some hardware, and that would be meaningful to me as a fan. But, so we got a 2-game aggregate against Liverpool in the semis, right?
Two legs, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the prospects of that don't look good. So then we're going to be out of cup competition, and we're going to be floundering in the middle of the table. So I don't know.
Do you fear that the board are going to sack Ange if we go out against Liverpool?
No, I don't think that would be I'm rather cynical as to why they would sack him. I think they would sack him because, I think there are other problems at the club that wouldn't be addressed by sacking Ange Postecoglou. I don't think you're going to find anyone who's more committed to success than he is, for example. So I don't see that as being the reason why they would sack him. Do you?
I would hope I hope they stick with him till at least the end of the season, then see where we're at. To be honest with you, I mean, I've said on here many times that we can't keep sacking managers. I know there's a proportion of the fan base that want Ange out, but I would say to that, and I don't know what your views are, Colin, on this. I would say, okay, that's fine, but who do you bring in?
Well, yeah.
And where does that? You're bringing in players for Ange, and then you've got another rebuild for another coach with different players. I mean, it's never-ending cycle.
And remember as well, Craig, that we waited 72 days to appoint a manager, and many of us thought that there was a plan, and we waited 72 days to appoint a manager.
Yeah.
You're talking when they fired Mourinho?
Yeah, 6 days before a cup final. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was that's not a plan. That's not knowing what your next step is. What we're going to fire the guy that got us here, like him or not, and then we're going to appoint an interim. And like you said, it was a very long time. And what was gained in the end of that season? Yeah. Colin,
last question for you. What do you expect Spurs to do in this transfer window? Because as we all know, it's very difficult, the January window, but it's even more difficult this year because of the new format of the Champions League, the Europa League and the Europa Conference League.
I don't see a lot happening in the transfer window as much as we as a fan base are baying for things to happen. I think big picture, if we get the squad back that we have, I don't think they're going to go on a fire sale spending spree over the January transfer window. As you said, it's one of the more difficult time periods to do that. I don't expect a lot. I would like to see some development. I'd like to see, I think in all areas of the pitch we need support, but I don't see them doing a lot. What do you guys think?
I think
Go on, Craig, what do you think?
This has been asked. This has been asked a little bit earlier, and I'll give the same answer. I would like at least 3 in. I'll have more if they're going to give us some, but I could probably see 2.
It's going to be an interesting one, Colin, because, of course, Ange doesn't want to bring in just anyone. He said this already a number of times. They've got to be players that are going to, work for him, fit in his system, etc., and be good for the future. Like I've said many, many times, particularly in the summer transfer window, I'm all for players for the future. But, of course, we do need to bring in players with vast experience, players that he can use into the team now. So that's going to be an interesting one. And, of course, the summer transfer window, I expect Spurs to go out and do some big business, not necessarily go and spend big money, but go and find some real gems like we did with Mickey van der Ven. I think a lot of people forget that Mickey van der Ven had played like 20 odd professional games before joining Spurs. And what a sensation he has been at the football club. Incredible.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Colin, thanks so much for joining us. And we look forward to having you on again soon.
Chris, Craig, thank you so much. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
See you later, Colin.
Cheers.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Let's now go to Alex in London. Alex, how are you? Happy New Year.
Big up, everybody. Now, I'm just going to get straight into it. I mean, firstly, I just wanted to bump this absolute waffle about injuries. Let's just get straight into it with the injuries. The first thing I need to say right now with these injuries, there's Vicario. Okay, first.
Hello, Alex. By the way, hello.
Yeah. Well, Craig, you know what time it is when I'm turning up. You know what I mean? You're only going to give me 5 minutes, so I'm going to make myself known in 5 minutes, like most people can do it in 5 minutes.
Alex, don't worry. Look, you haven't even said hello. Just go for it.
Yeah, let's get straight to it. You know.
Box office in the house.
Vicario. Okay, first team. Richarlison. No, he's not first team. I'm sorry. He's bang average. He's a backup. Again, I don't do backups. I want people that can compete. Get rid of him all day long. So I'm sorry. I'm not going to go there with him being an injury player. I don't care about him. Right? Davis. Right? Davis now he's our best defender. He's been our best defender this season. So I don't want to hear this nonsense about Messi Romero, who's been terrible this season, by the way. Absolutely terrible, by the way, this season. Right? Another one as well, Van der Ven, we all knew, and I said this at the beginning, and other people that I streamed with as well said this at the beginning when he came in. His hands is going to tick. How many times has it ticked this season? That, you know what I mean? So we should have been prepared for it, because we said, and even Ange said it, he said, oh, we don't want to block the pathway to Phillips that he never plays, by the way. He sent on loan because he said he didn't like him, right? So, sorry, that's an excuse again, right? And Vucevic as
he
well,
needs experience,
right?
Alex Phillips.
Yeah, well, that's on him, because he said that he didn't need any defenders. Well, look what's happened. You needed the defenders, Ange. That's your fault again. Who else is there? We went for Van der Ven, Adoji. And also another thing as well about Romero. Oh yeah, because he played so much games. Because he played in the Copa America. So again, why do you not get a defender in, Ange? Again, that's on Ange and Ange again. So again, excuse again. This is on you again. And don't talk about Daniel Levy, because he's getting backed at the moment. So I can't have a guy up Daniel Levy at the moment. Again, we go back to and then go on to Adoji, the left back. We all knew we needed a left back. He kept on playing him. He didn't even look at Spence. He wasn't even thinking about his rear view mirror until later on in the season. He even played against Coventry. Yeah, he was the man that got us out of a hole against Coventry in the Carabao Cup. Remember, right? But then all of a sudden now, don't play him. Completely ignore him. Even give him a new contract. Even more of a bit of a kick in the face to him.
That has been a real positive, though, Alex, hasn't it, Jed Spence?
Yeah, but the problem is though, Chris, is that he's always had him available to him, and he's ignored him. The only reason why he's in the team now, because we've got injuries, and that's on him. The way we play is because we're getting injuries.
Are you still behind Ange Postecoglou?
You know that. You know what the answer is, Chris. I don't want to repeat. If you watch Mr. Box Office TV, I don't want to do a rinse and repeat. I don't want to do that, because at the end of the day, the only reason why I come on, because I don't want to rinse and repeat it again.
Well, you're here to
Ange Postecoglou, because I think better coaches out there.
Alex, you're on to tell us how you're feeling as a Spurs fan right now. So you've heard some of the guests already come on, and they say that they are fully behind Ange Postecoglou. Are you behind the manager? If you're not, what needs to change?
But he needs to adapt. But for me, I'm done with him. If I had the chance, the only problem is that where I do agree with certain people here is that I don't trust the board to actually get a manager in, because I think there are coaches out there that are better than Ange, right? Much better than Ange. He's not a coach.
Like who's likely to come in, and if Spurs went and offered them the job, who's likely to come in for you?
I'll take Terzic right now. If Tottenham are actually up for it, I'll take Areola right now. If they can offer him something right now, I'll take. If Eddie Howe was available, I'll take him. I think he's better than Ange all day long. I think he manages the squad better than Ange is doing at the moment. Obviously, Pochettino was better than him all day long. I think he was better than him last season. He looked better than him at the end of last season. I've got to be honest. He started badly, but then his trajectory was up there. His Ange's trajectory was down here since the first 10 games, and I thought it was a bounce, which I said on Mr. Box Office TV. I think he can't handle big characters, hence the reason why you've seen what's happening with Maddison. He doesn't play him well at all. I think he doesn't adapt. He doesn't adapt at all. That Man City game was just an anomaly. Let's be honest here, because all it was is that we've shown that we're just a counter-attacking team, right? He hasn't improved anybody, and don't talk to me about Kulusevski, because all he did is put him in centre, and that's it. And he's doing the same thing he did at Parma. If you watch him at Parma,
Alex,
so,
you know, whenever you come on this show, I always like to try and get a positive out of you. What positives would you take from this season so far?
We press well. That's it. But that should be a given. That should be a given. Right?
What was that?
We press well. That's it. We press. That's it.
What about the season that Kulusevski's had so far?
He's been good. Good. And I'm being kind. He's been good. Right?
No better than good. Yeah,
he's not. He's not that great. He's not no Bell levels or anything like that. I'm sorry. I don't. He needs to do this next season. When I see him next season, we'll see what happens. He has this tendency to not turn up in certain games as well.
Who do we need?
the player that needs to be acknowledged a little bit more is Maddison for me. I don't think he plays him well at all. I think Maddison's having to do everything. He has to be all over the pitch, and he's not actually being the number 10 that he actually needs to be. Play the number 10.
Alex, who do you bring in January if you had the choice? Who would you bring in? Not manager. I'm talking about players.
We need a proper midfielder because I don't like any of our midfielders. I don't like any of our midfielders at the moment. Hence the reason why I'd rather have Højbjerg back in my team at the moment, which is embarrassing because I was criticising him all the time. He was at Tottenham, bang average, I said, but I'd rather have him back in my team because Bentancur and Basuma are useless as far as I'm concerned, not real midfielders. Right? I actually think that Archie Gray should be playing in his position, by the way. Right? I need an arrogant striker. I need arrogant. I need some proper forwards, right? Because I'm sorry, Solanke's okay. He's okay. Don't get me started on Timo Werner.
You just said one of the positives has been the pressing this season.
Yeah.
Now, one of the guys that does most of the pressing is Dominic Solanke. Surely he's done better than just okay.
Wait, no, he's okay. He's okay. I don't think he's set the world alight. I've got to be honest. Yes, he presses well. He does okay. He works hard, but that should be a given.
Alex, last question. Last question for you. The Newcastle game on Saturday. How are you feeling ahead of that, and what do you think the outcome will be?
I wouldn't be surprised if we win, but I wouldn't be surprised if we draw. That's it for me. I think I can't. I do worry about the defence. I will give some credit though to Archie Gray, even though I still think he should go on loan. I think Burval needs to go on loan. I think Archie Gray doesn't look too bad. I think he's actually looked better than bloody Dragerson. But to be fair, I'm sorry, he shouldn't be in that position. We should never put him in that position in the first place. We should have got proper midfielders to help him. Right, because the leadership in our team, the composure in our team, someone that can put the foot on the ball is just nowhere to be seen. That's where I can't have it.
Alex, very, very quickly, would you take Grealish?
I'll take him all day long, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. That's never going to happen, unfortunately. That's it, really, for me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I know truth doesn't. I know people don't like the truth, right? But I had to keep it brief because then you're only going to give me 5 minutes. So that's what I wanted to do, make it box office for you and tell you what the truth was all about. You know what I mean? Because some of your guests were all telling me that, we need to back Ange. He's got so much credit in the bank. I'm not being funny. He's been the worst manager since 2008, even worse than Christian Gross.
Alex, we've given you 10 minutes. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before you go?
What I say is, Chris, when Ricky's on, I love to debate him because honestly, I'm sorry, some of the stuff that I've heard from him, honestly, I'm ready to challenge him, mate. I'm sorry. I'm here to challenge the opinion as far as I'm concerned. That's what I'm saying because I'm here for the debate and that's all I'm going to say. You know what I mean? But big up to you, Chris. Big up to you, Craig. Sorry I don't say hello to you, Craig, but you know what I mean? It's like, you know how it is. You know, you see me once, you don't see me twice. You know what I mean? That's every single time, you know? That's it.
Alex,
anyway.
Alex, your sign off, just as you go. Do your sign off for everybody.
Well, I'm like I say, it's you don't see me twice. You only see me once. You don't see me twice. You know what I mean? And if you say my name once, you might see me another time. You know what I mean? But just take this moment and just appreciate it. And that's it. Mr. Box Office TV signing out. I'm out of here. Take care, guys. I'm out of here. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. This is exactly why we've decided to do shows like this, because there are so many different opinions, and it is, well worth getting everyone's opinions, because some people are happy, some people are not so happy, and some people are, well, I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean. Let's go to another guest. We've got Luke with us. Luke, how are you?
I was wondering if I'd be picked next, and I thought that was a pretty tough act to follow. So here we are. I'm going to have to try and live up to it.
Luke, happy New Year to you. I'm going to ask you straight off. What did you agree with? What Alex said there, if anything?
Not a lot, to be honest. And there was a lot. So no, I understand why he's feeling that frustration though, because I've liked Ange since he's come in, but even I am starting to waver in the last couple of weeks, because I think if you look at the league table, it's pretty damning, and that is probably the strongest indicator of how things are going. And we have got injuries. We've got ridiculous injuries, but that sort of pragmatism it could be argued is missing in some of the ways we've approached some of our games recently. We're not just 11th at the moment, we're actually 9th for the calendar year, and that's a pretty good indicator of consistency of form, and that since those first 10 games we've not really been great or consistent. So it's not just since the start of this season, although we can point to those injuries and say that. It's been for an entire year that we've been inconsistent, and I think 2024 was, it had pretty good moments, but mainly quite miserable. So I do agree with Mr. Box Office on that.
Look, do you see the overall picture though with Ange Postecoglou, and do you get all of the negativity around the manager? Because when you look at it, there were some fans that weren't happy with the appointment in the first place. I feel like there's some fans that just, they cannot. And it sounds really strange because I certainly would never fit into this category. It's like some fans want us to lose for him to lose the job.
Yeah, that's a bizarre attitude. And one of the guests earlier said I don't think anyone in the stadium is against him, but I've sat there in the south stand and heard people screaming, "Get out of our club!" And they're usually individuals, but there are people that feel quite passionately about it. I think though, Chris, the picture is a lot bigger than that. Even I think I remember going to the 2008 Carling Cup final, I think it was, and it was an amazing day, but that was a dreadful season. The Premier League that season we were horrendous. We had a really bad time. Obviously, the next season started poorly, and the manager lost his job a couple of months in. So it wasn't a good time then. Since then, we have been. People have mentioned it already. In this sort of just constant deja vu of the same issue happening. We get 18 months into a manager. They go through transfer windows where players are brought in, and it was mentioned earlier that Levy has spent money, but he's a smart man. Like, investment for investment's sake is not good investment. Just putting money into something and saying, there you go, I've done it, is not enough. It has to be strategic. It has to be calculated and planned. What kind of club are we? And I think our biggest problem we've got is we don't have a very clear plan. We don't have a clear identity of what we want to do. If I said to you, what is Tottenham's approach to being successful on the pitch, you might go and lean on what the manager says, but it needs to go above him. It needs to be larger than that. We've got Scott Munnin, we've got Langer in, so hopefully there's some identity being built there, and it's being built off the back of what Ange wants to do, which hopefully will bear some fruit at some point. But like a couple of guests mentioned earlier, Levy would bring players in when we didn't have a manager. Who's that for, and where's that going to go? And then they don't fit into the person he does fit in. So for me, I think we've lacked identity behind the scenes for such a long time. Now we've got it with Ange. I think people don't like his style of play. You're never going to please everyone. But I think for once, we've actually got to try to all pull together and back a philosophy and a style from the top of the club through to the manager, to the players we bring in, and to the fans to get some kind of consistency.
Luke, you said you were sort of wavering about Ange. How long do you think it gets if we go out of the cup to Liverpool? If our league form dips and we don't push up the table, do you think his job's in jeopardy? Do you think the club are going to stick with him regardless, or do you think there's a tipping point?
Well, I think there's two interesting things. One is that Mourinho and Conte were both sacked later on in a season than we are now. But Ange has now managed to last longer than the two of them. He's a few games past them, I think, in total. But they both started later on in the season, didn't they? Whereas Ange has actually gone from the start of the season, and now we're halfway through year two with him. So they were sacked at those moments because you could see that after half a season and then the start of a new one, there hadn't been a lot of progress. There was the sort of the uptick you always get when a new manager comes in. We improved massively with Conte, but then nothing got better. With Ange, I think that we're all clinging on for this transfer window. We're all holding on to it. And we've talked about it so much this evening that the other two didn't get that, because by that point it was like, well, if it's not working, we're not backing you in the summer because we don't see you going anywhere. I think Ange has got this grace that if we do bring, say, 2, 3, and, you know, I don't believe it'll happen, but maybe 4 players in, that could give him time to embed those players into the team, I think all the way up to the end of the season. But I think the other side of it is that, you know, it's a results business, isn't it? And if it's going really badly, I think he could get sacked, yeah. And Levy likes to pull the trigger. So yeah, I don't have much hope for him if we get knocked out of the Carabao Cup in January. We've got, you know, FA Cup by February. It would be looking pretty grim.
Luke, you mentioned that you were at the 2008 Cup final when we beat Chelsea. How has life changed for you in those 17 years? Because it does seem like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was, how old was I? I think I was 19, I think then. So just starting out in life, really. So a lot has happened to me since then. But I think I might have been prematurely aged by Tottenham as well in that time. So it's been a tough 15, 16 years. I go with my dad to the football, and we've had games where, you know, we've had great moments, but we've also had matches where we've looked at each other and he looks at me with this almost apologetic look in his eyes, like, I'm sorry I've dragged you into this.
Yeah.
Luke, do you think this current crop of players, the current squad, has got the ability and the nous to be better than the squad Pochettino assembled?
Well, Pochettino, I think, I always say that I think Pochettino was almost a bad thing to happen to Tottenham. And I know that sounds really bizarre, but what I mean is he came in and made something of a group of players that didn't necessarily look like world beaters or title challengers. And he turned that team into something way beyond what I think any of us thought they were at the time. I mean, if you look at Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Rose, Walker, etc., they were all really at the start of their careers. And what he did with them was amazing. And I think, unfortunately, it told Daniel Levy, "Hey, this is good. We can spend, you know, lower than the other top 6 teams, say, and get more out of them. We can have a lower wage bill than, say, you know, even 8 or 9 teams above us in the league, and still outperform that." And I feel like he's wanted that to happen ever since. And when Postecoglou came in, he did get, you know, a lot out of some of the players. Is the squad better? No, I think there's holes in it. I think, you know, one thing I look at is I live just up the road from Brighton. It was interesting to hear your guest earlier who lives in Bournemouth. So occasionally I go and watch Brighton because it's very accessible for me here to get there. They've got 2 players in every position in their squad, you know, and they are at the level that the club want to be at. They're not, I don't think they'll break into the top 4, but they've got a full squad and they rotate it regularly. I mean, if you just go through their striking options, they've got Ferguson, Welbeck, João Pedro and Jorginho Rutter. And that, for me, is embarrassing to compare that to our squad now and say we've got Solanke, a teenager, and a very expensive injured Brazilian. So, no, I think the squad itself is quite poor, if I'm honest.
The thing is, Luke, with Brighton, I find incredible the fact that they sell their best players year after year and just replace them with equal quality. It's amazing. Their recruitment and their football programme is absolutely amazing. Luke, last question for you. Heung-min Son, keep and give a new deal to, or release in the summer?
Well, I think I agreed with what one of your guests said earlier about the fact that he's really good for the team and being around the team. But that makes him basically an incredibly expensive coach. And we know now that when transfer fees are amortized across, you know, spread across time to make them fit into the budget, but wages can't be done like that. And he's on a big wage. And I think that he's been a weak spot in the team this season. My heart says I want him to start performing, and within the next month or two to prove that it was just a glitch and he was tired. But my head says if in the next few months he's still playing like this, I think he needs to be replaced, not just on the pitch, but in the wage bill as well, which is harsh, and it hurts me to say that. He'll always be a legend, but we can't give people free rides, which sounds awful, but yeah.
Luke, thanks so much for joining us. Pleasure having you on, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Cheers. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Let's now go to Wes. Wes, Happy New Year to you. How are you?
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, guys. Hello, Chris. Hey, Craig. How you guys doing? How y'all New Year?
Oh, Wes, you all right?
Wes, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
I think very similar to everybody else. I think a lot of people, you got some people who are Jen, which I'm pretty much I'm leaning still that way. And then you still got some people who say because of the results, no manager will probably last this long. A lot of times they get fired off of the running form they're on right now, especially that he's on it at the moment. But I don't want to go through the merry-go-round. We've been through this coaching merry-go-round for the last couple of years, especially since we fired Poch, and I'm sick of it. I'd rather just if we're going to go by his idea, when we got the kind of players already on our squad now that fits more his system that he's looking for, we might as well see what he can do. And plus, he's had a very much injured squad, worse than even last year. And you just got to, he's in a real bad space right there. His back is pretty much in the corner. We got to hope we get some signings in to help him out, to at least get more depth in squads, more, least experienced talent back in the squad. But I'm still leaning Jen, but I know the running form, you really can't defend him for too much longer.
Do you think we're entitled as a fan base, Wes? Do you think we're expecting too much, or is this our level? Is this what we should expect?
Well, you mean like sitting 11th and 12th in the league? And
I'm hoping a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
But
How dare you, Craig?
Yeah. I'm not quite where we are now. But
yeah, like early 2000s, we were like that. We would be seeing like 11, even the 90s, we were sitting at like 11th, 12th. But we're winning a cup, though. We're winning an FA Cup, or we're winning a League Cup or something like that back in those days. And really,
I don't think you lived through it, Wes. You don't look old enough to live through it.
And I just became I became a Spurs fan around. Yeah, I became a Spurs fan actually when we made the Champions League final. After that Lucas Moore run, I started to watch the team a whole lot more and became a fan after falling in love with Son and Kane, of course, and stuff. So that's when I became a fan personally. But I've been looking at all the history of the team and the club and everything going all the way back to the 1880s and 90s. So I've been learning a lot. But yeah, we were always been more of a cup team. We've never been really like a league winning type of team, not since the 50s and 60s. But I don't know, like we're only sitting this far deep because we lost to teams we should never lost to. We lost to Ipswich, lost to Crystal Palace, which those games we should never lost to, and we had a better squad than the depleted team we have now at that time, and we still lost those games against those type of clubs. And you see that done hurt us, and now we don't put us in a weird predicament really at the moment. But really, it's down to the injuries, and I do think his style of play can work. But I think one tactic I've seen not really work too much is the inverted fullbacks. A lot of times, if we lose possession and our fullbacks are inverted in the midfield area and they're not in position to go defend the wingers that's on the opposition, they'll go on a run, and then that could be a goal scoring opportunity 95% of the time. And a lot of times that's hurt us and made us really lose 2-goal leads like we have previously in the last couple of weeks. So I don't know. But 11th and 12th, at the way our stature our club is now, that's not our level. Our level is really at least top 7, top 8 at least. We're not a 12th. We're not Crystal Palace or something.
Wait, is that really why you support Spurs? Because that Lucas Moura hat trick? Because of that game?
Okay, here's the thing. I didn't have a club. Remember, I'm American. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, in the States. But I never really had a club that I really followed in the Premier League. I just followed all the clubs and stuff. I just looked around. I didn't really have a favorite club yet. But I ended up just falling in love with Spurs because I just liked the history. I liked the colors. I liked the to there is to do. I liked that whole mantra and everything. So I just ended up following them a lot. I did not like Arsenal. I never did. So it kind of fitted in. It was like, oh, there's our arch rivals to Arsenal. That's cool with me. Like I wasn't too much into Arsenal, so I just ended up falling. So I ended up I ended up seeing that Champions League run, and I was like, dang, they could probably go and pull something out maybe, but. We ended up losing to Liverpool. It is what it is. But that was a crazy moment. I just started following them ever since. Then, of course, they had the new stadium at the time that was coming out. And I thought Tottenham at that time, I thought they were up to bigger and better things, going even higher level. Even though I knew that we had the trophy draw even then, I didn't really too much care. I don't necessarily still understand the banter we get from other fans of other clubs. I don't get it. We're not what Millwall was back in the 1980s and stuff. So I don't get why we get that kind of flack. But it is what it is. I guess they have to have somebody to banter on. But yeah, I became a Spurs fan during that time period, especially with the way Pochettino had that team playing.
Wes, you've mentioned Pochettino a couple of times. I tell you what, I've been really surprised this last week or so, particularly on social media, the amount of people who have come out and said, let's bring Pochettino back. Would you ever? Do you think that would ever happen?
That's unless he can coach the national team and the club at the same time. He just took this USA job, which I'm as a USA fan, of course, very happy with. That's like the biggest coach we've had in our history to me. And, for a while, we haven't had a manager of that kind of quality in a while. So I'm very excited what he could do with the USA team. But as a Spurs fan, of course, I wouldn't hate it. Like it's not like he's some has-been manager to me. He's still a top-tier manager to me, and he did actually well with Chelsea, especially by the end of the season. I know a lot of people get on him by going even considering coaching for Chelsea, but it happened. He took the job. But he did a good job with that team. They just ended up firing him afterwards, and I think he would have still been roaring on like how they're doing now. But I would take him back if he was available. But I just don't think he's going to leave that USA job. I think he done kind of committed to that. So there's really no point in thinking even about it. To me.
Whereas I'm guessing somebody said, I noticed you was wearing red and being a Tottenham fan, but Atlanta Falcons wear red as well, don't they?
Yeah, I knew somebody was going to say something about that, but nah, it's just a shirt I had on today, hey.
But I guess you're an Atlanta Falcons fan as well?
Yeah,
because they wear red.
Fan. Atlanta United, which is our hometown club. I'm a very big fan. You see, I got the clock and everything up there. So yeah, that's my hometown club as well. So yeah.
No, I've been to Georgia. It's one of my favourite states. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Especially up north. Yeah.
Atlanta and Augusta is my Augusta. It's on the bucket list. Yeah.
Wes, if you listen to the podcast on a regular basis, you'll know that Craig's always after free holidays. So if you'd like to put Craig up for a week or two, he'll take you up on it.
100%.
Last question for you, Wes. Of course, we face Newcastle on Saturday. How do you think that one's going to go?
Oh my Lord, that's gonna be interesting. That's all I have to say. That's gonna be interesting. Oh man, that's gonna be interesting. And that's away, ain't it? That's away.
That's at home.
That's at home. Okay. That makes me a little bit more level to that. It's at home. I know when we go away against them, problems usually happen, just like us going to Anfield or something like that. But it's very similar for some reason. You never know with Spurs. Like we have such a depleted team, but somehow we can pull out games with the way his tactics are. His tactics offensively is gold. We can still score against guys even with the team we have currently. We've been holding our own, even with like teenagers playing for us. So his offensive side of the game that he has tactically is on point to me. It fits our mantra, what we want to do, just be a front-footed team. It's the defending right now. We got so many players on that back line just out, and got a lot of players playing in weird positions, not playing the position they're used to. Archie Gray's playing center back, even though he is a 6. I don't like that the club is now thinking that we shouldn't get another center back because Archie Gray's playing so well. No, I want to see him in a 6. Once we need to get replacements for the actual center back. We actually play center back and put Archie back in his natural position because I want to see him at the 6. I want to see him and Bergwijn one day playing together in that midfield. Like those two, to me, I think both of them have been playing very well. I hope Bergwijn actually plays because to me, I think he's very poised and controlled, and I think he's learned from that Europa game a lot. So, but yeah, what I think we could do, I think we could. I never go against Spurs. I just can't do it. I can't say, I'm gonna hope they lose, or I'm gonna go for them not to lose or to not win the game. I'm gonna go for us to hopefully pull something out. If it can be another draw, then hey, we get another draw. At least we're not losing. But I know we need the points. We need to start getting some 3 points here and there. So if we can somehow pull one out by like 1-0 or something like that, I don't know. I'll be fine with that.
Well, let's hope that Spurs can get back to winning ways at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday. Wes, you've been a great guest. You've had so many great comments, and we'd love to have you back sometime in the near future. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I appreciate you from the first time on, Chris. I've been watching you for a while. Man. You do good and crazy stuff. I'm going into journalism as well, and I hope to be doing something similar to what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Nice one,
Cheers,
Wes.
Wes. Speak to you soon.
Bye. Have a new
Bye.
year.
Cheers.
And you, God, we got to get him back on, Chris. What a guest, honestly. What a lovely lad. And the young lad, so young, obviously from a different country that's not a massive football cup, but he went and actually researched our history, which a lot of people don't do. I'll tell you, what a cracking guest.
We've had some great guests. Tom, we're going to come to you next. Tom, how are you? Happy New Year to you.
Good, thank you. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on.
Hi, Tom.
Tom, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
It's very difficult at the moment, isn't it? I mean, you know, the form has been dreadful in the league. The form has been dreadful, and I think for me, it's just becoming more and more difficult to back Ange because, you know, I saw a stat earlier, and you know the Chelsea game where we lost 4-1 last season. Yeah. Since that game, we've lost 20 Premier League games in the last 44 we've played. I just think if that sort of form continues, I think it's going to be hard to for him to keep his job. But you know, there's other factors, obviously injuries and which, you know, I'm sure we'll discuss. But yeah, it's very difficult at the moment.
Where do you stand on it though, Tom? Because all these stats, and we've gone through a lot of the stats on the podcast, week by week, month by month, you know, ever since Ange Postecoglou's come through the door. And as we all know, you know, it was a weird feeling in the Tottenham Stadium, losing 4-1 at home to Chelsea, and most of the fans stayed and applauded in the way that we played in that game, that we were still going for it, you know, 2-1 down, 3-1 down, and so on. And it was such a weird atmosphere. I've never, ever seen that in my life. You know, we've lost 4-1 and people are applauding. We said on the podcast the other day after the Wolves game that Ange Postecoglou has now got a worst points record, you know, even worse than Christian Gross. You might not even remember him.
Yeah,
and that they were bad times, you know. But as you said, you know, the amount of injuries that we have had, do you see the bigger picture? Is Ange Postecoglou the man to take us forward and get success at Spurs that so many haven't?
I mean, the way I see it is that he hasn't failed yet because we're still in all the cup competitions. But I think if you look at the, I think if you just look at the results, I think that it's so hard to back him. But I just think, you know, we've gone through a cycle of managers. And I think that, does it have to be different this time? Do we have to just stick with a manager till the end and just see where it takes us? But obviously, whether he's actually the man for the job. And you see, like, you know, our former managers, Nuno, look at the job he's doing. So it's like every manager we appoint, you know, they go on to be successful. And Ange's been successful everywhere he's gone. So I don't see a reason why he can't be successful. But it's just hard because I think it's unsustainable because we will finish bottom half if this continues. And I think, you know, the fans won't accept it. I think the players won't accept it. I think players like Romero, you know, international players that, you know, they're playing for Argentina, used to winning World Cups. He won't stick around if we're in the bottom half. So I think, you know, a lot's riding on this Liverpool game next week. I think if we get battered in the first leg, and if we don't get through in the Europa League, or the chance of a trophy goes out the window, I think it's going to be really hard for him. But you just got to hope. You got to have that, you know, that lingering hope that. And also, when we got the last time we got this amount of points in a calendar year, we won a trophy. So who knows?
Do you not think, Tom, that managers fit clubs more? I think that you just see certain managers just fit clubs perfectly. And ever since Ange has come in, I just think his whole philosophy and the way he wants to play certainly fits Tottenham. But some people have said, oh, he's lost the dressing room. I'm not seeing that. I see players that are actually fighting out there. We're just not doing particularly well in some games. Do you think that? He hasn't lost the dressing room, has he, yet? And I hope it doesn't happen, obviously.
No, I think that, I think the only time where I've seen I saw Kulu a couple of weeks ago. He said something, I don't know, it might have been taken out of context, but he said something about the football not being sustainable or something like that. But I think the players definitely, they're definitely behind him. But I just think we don't have the squad. And I think if you compare our squad to Man City have a better squad than us. Liverpool have a better squad than us. Chelsea have a better squad than us. And Arsenal have a better squad than us. And the fact that they have better quality squads and the fact that we can't rotate for these Europa League games because we don't have the depth to rotate for these games. I think, there's a lot of factors that are against that, I think it's just that it's so hard at the moment to sort of pick it all apart. But I think we just need to stick with him for now and try and, ride the storm. But yeah, like you said, I think he does fit, he fits the club like a glove because, he wants to be, the intention's there, but it's just whether it can be successful. And we do want success and we need to actually discuss, we need to be serious as a fan base is whether this is actually going to work or do we just, accept that things aren't going to work for, even another couple of seasons. And then we hopefully just get to a point where we are successful.
Tom, what have you made of the rebuild so far? Because I think all of us knew that the rebuild was going to be tough. No matter who the manager is, when you lose your best player, our record goal scorer of all time at the football club, Harry Kane, just before the season started, lots of players have gone out the door, lots of players have come in the door. What have you made of the rebuild so far? And would you imagine that it continues transfer window after transfer window where a couple of the the players that have been here for some time go out the door? Heung-min Son could possibly go out the door in the summer. But I suppose it's about buying that real quality in, real gems, finds like people like Mickey van der Ven, for example.
Yeah. I think in terms of the rebuild, I think, the club's done a good job at getting rid of a lot of players that needed to leave, like players like Dyer, Lloris, they weren't good. They were never going to be good for any manager, let alone Ange. So I think in terms of, getting rid of players that should be leaving the club, the club's done a good job. But yeah, it has been painful because, the results have been so bad. But, players like Van der Ven, we need another 5 or 6 of players like Van der Ven of that sort of quality. But, you can't rely on Spurs to do something like that. But, we brought in so many players that are maybes. They might be good players. Archie Gray, I think he's a decent player now, but is he going to take us to the next level now? And I think we need to accept there is a rebuild of younger players and that it's going to take time. If we really want to be successful, players like Archie Gray, then, and Bergvall, I'm really excited. I'm glad we signed them, but they're not going to lead to success now. They're going to lead to success potentially in a couple of years. So, yeah, it's, I'm happy with what the club's done, but and obviously getting rid of Kane as well. It's like everyone forgets that we got rid of our best ever player.
Yeah.
And I think if we still had Kane, we'd easily have another 20 points in the league. I think I'm confident in saying that.
Tom, last question for you. Would you take a European finish in the league this season or a Carabao Cup win?
Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Because I just think, we qualified for Europe so many times. Champions League, we're never going to win it anyway. I mean, obviously we got close, but I don't think we're going to win the Champions League for another couple of years with no chance of winning that. So I just think we need to end that drought.
Tom, thanks so much for joining us, and we'd love to have you back on again very soon.
Thanks so much for inviting me, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Tom.
Good, Tom. Bye.
Right, let's now go to Lashk. I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting. How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Hi guys. Hi guys. Happy New Year. Hi Chris. Hi Craig. How you guys doing?
All good. All good. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
Yeah, it's a bit torn really. I'm still want to back Ange, but I mean the stats don't lie, do they? In terms of since that Chelsea game, it's been a bit of a tough sort of slog really. I'm hoping. I know there's sort of injuries in the squad which played a part, But even when we had a sort of full squad, it was a bit. We were losing to Ipswich, losing to Palace, so it was. I don't know. I still think Ange has the right philosophy for the club. I think the players are sort of. It's just. I think the training and the players are just sort of need to sort of step it up a bit more. I think in terms of the performance levels. I know they're a bit tired, but every other club is in a similar position, I would say.
Blash, do you think we have to now bring in more experienced players in this window, or do you think they're going to continue bringing in kids essentially?
Yeah, I think with the sort of history of Levy, I think he's sort of obviously working with that recruitment team that he's got in place. I think it's sort of he thinks it's a sort of a short-term issue, so he'd probably go for loan signings like the Sam Johnstons and I think I saw we were linked to what's his name? I think someone sort of so Skriniar's are actually available. I saw that link, but I haven't seen Spurs sort of been linked to them, and he's sort of a experienced sort of body at the back that could help the team if he's available, of course. And that would be a loan as well. So there's people out there if you look hard enough, and in terms of if there's some promising youngsters, bring them in. This season's pretty much a bit of a write-off, apart from the cups. Hopefully we can pull something out the bag. I'm not sort of confident on the Liverpool game, but the Europa League and the FA Cup, if you have a good sort of run in the home draws and decent opposition, I think there's a chance there. But I think the league's a bit of a write-off, really.
It seems like you are one of the many Spurs fans that have written that Liverpool game off over the two legs. Do you not think that their main priority is Champions League and the Premier League over just the Carabao Cup?
Yeah, probably. I think the second team is pretty good as well. I know they'll rotate a bit for sure. They'll rotate a bit for sure. I just think if our sort of team is sort of get the right rhythm and clinical, I think we have a chance. Don't get me wrong, but problem is over two legs, so that's the issue. So if we manage to sneak a 2-1 win in the home leg, as an example, they'll bring back the big guns for the second leg, and I think that'll be too strong for us, especially it's away. So we haven't got a good record at Anfield.
No, I mean, I think that's key, and it for me is you hear that Liverpool are going to rotate, but then if we do win, I said we've got at least have a 2-goal lead after that first leg. So you would just hope that you go to Anfield and manage to sit out. The trouble is, as we know with Ange's tactics, we're not just the sort of team if we're got a 2-goal lead.
I back us on a one-off game for sure. I think we would go full strength for that. I just want him to play Maddison a lot more. I don't know what's happened there because he's a sort of a crucial creative player alongside Deki, Kulusevski. But I'm not sure what's going on. I'm hoping Bergvall and Archie, if we do manage to get a centre back in, or if Romero or Van der Ven, I think they're still out for most of January. I'm not sure, but Archie Gray in the middle with sort of Bentancur and then Maddison and then Kulusevski off the wing, that would be great. A bit more attacking, a bit more creative, and they're fairly clinical players as well. And I think Solanke's done a really great job as well.
Last question for you. Who would you expect to go out the door either in this window and the summer transfer window? Because when you look at the 5 players out of contract going into the last 6 months of contract now, Son, Davis, Forster, Whiteman, Reguilon, those 5 could possibly leave in the summer. But anyone else for you that you'd like to offload and replace?
A bit disappointed with Basuma, I'm not going to lie. He had great hopes. I had great hopes for him. I just don't think he doesn't come across that serious on the pitch. I don't know what you guys think, but he's obviously got that talent. But he has made a lot of clanging and a lot of errors. Sarr's obviously a keeper. I think he's got potential, and I just think Basuma is probably one where I think they could probably get a better person in. Someone's a bit more sort of
blows hot and cold, doesn't he? Really?
Yeah, he does.
Do you know what? I would love to see the Richarlison that played for Everton playing for Spurs, and I'd love to see the Basuma that played for Brighton play for Spurs. That's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, definitely Richarlison. I think he's just too injury prone, too much of a burden really on the team. Just need to move on from him, I think, and get someone in. But the one thing I would sort of want to flag is the one thing that would disappoint me because I watch a lot of Ange's press conferences, pre-match and post-match. One thing that was disappointing was around. One of the questions was about Radu Dragusin. Oh, was it a bit of a risk playing him? And he sort of said I had no choice, but you got Alfie Dorrington there. I don't know if he was injured. I don't think he was, but I mean, you probably seen a lot more youth games than I have. But I think he's a centre back that's been training most of his life. I think it's 19, 20.
I thought that was a very strange thing for Ange Postecoglou to say, and thanks for bringing that up, by the way. To say I had no choice, because if a player is not 100%, I'm surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we've seen the Amazon documentary under Jose Mourinho, the medical staff never ever let Jose Mourinho take any risks. And I know a lot of people saying that we've never known an injury crisis so bad. I think a lot of people forget the amount of injuries that we had just before COVID under Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of chat. I don't know. It's probably speculation whether he's, not listening to the staff, the coaches. It comes across maybe a bit stubborn, but it's quite hard to believe that. I mean, you'd like to think that they're working together. I know he has the final say, but if a centre back's not fully fit, especially for the game against Wolves, you'd like to think, Alfie Dorrington would have he's not going to be that bad, is he? He can take a little bit of risk there and save Radu for the Liverpool game.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm surprised that a lot of the under-21 guys and the academy players haven't been given more opportunities. Lars, thank you so much for joining us, and please do come back again soon and give us more opinions.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, guys. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye.
Now, let's go to Gary. Gary, I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting this long. How are you?
Hi, guys. How the devil are you?
It has been a busy show with lots of great opinions, and we're going to get yours now.
I can't believe you put me on after box office. That guy's honestly, he's mad as a box of frogs, isn't he?
Gary,
he's
of course,
passionate man.
As I've said, we're all passionate about Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and we all have very different opinions. What are your opinions on the season so far, and are you behind Ange Postecoglou?
I'm disappointed, obviously, with the league form. I feel that it cannot continue. I think the saving grace for me is the cups, obviously Europa League and the Carabao. I'm struggling to understand how we beat Liverpool in the semi-final. That's not to be negative, but over 2 legs, I think is a massive ask. I think the Europa League might give us our best opportunity, if I'm honest. I just think that we can't overlook the fact, though, that the form has been quite poor over the last sort of 6 months. We've done really well at times. We've played some marvellous football, some real exhilarating stuff. But too often than not, we've really underperformed. I think the system's got a lot to do with that, Craig. I think sometimes he doesn't want to adapt. He doesn't have to change the system completely, although I do feel that at certain points it would be wise to change the system, i.e. when you're playing Liverpool, and they're the best team in the country at the moment, arguably Europe. They're flying high as well, and we just play the same way. We just go out gung-ho. Why not switch to a back three? Why not? You might say, well, we haven't really got the players, but ultimately, whatever his name was, he just mentioned Dorrington, could have brought him in. I know it's a big game to play him in, but we've got to try something different. If you don't change, how can you expect the results to sort of be any different, sort of thing? I do feel for him. We've had a lot of injuries. I'm not Ange out, but I do fear that if things don't improve quickly, I think Mr. Levy will push that whole trapdoor button, unfortunately. I don't want to see that, personally.
No, I don't think any of us. Well, some of us do, but I certainly don't.
There are some.
Yeah, there are. Do you think it could actually ultimately be Ange's downfall? That stubbornness that he refuses to change.
Absolutely, I've feared that from virtually from day one. If I'm honest, a few red flags for me. I mean, basically, that Chelsea game. I know a lot of fans were cheering. I looked at it and thought, that's madness, absolute madness. And unfortunately, that has continued throughout his tenure so far. He continues to play wide open. I don't enjoy it. I mean, I think one of your other guests said, going forward, it's just fantastic. It's what we all want to see. But unfortunately, at the back, there's gaping holes everywhere, the way he inverts the fullbacks. I mean, I think you showed a thing the other week, Craig, where you brought up a steal on the pitch. And I think Porro was sort of, on the edge of their area, in the centre of their area, and Doggy was right on the left-hand corner of the area. And you're thinking, well, and then lo and behold, the other team breaks, one ball over the top, and we're in big bother, aren't we? So
high risk, high reward.
Very
I guess,
high risk,
isn't it?
very high risk.
What do you make of the exciting football, though, Gary? Because Ange said in his first season last year, and I think it is very fair to say, I think I said it on virtually every podcast, how many chances that we missed, how wasteful we were in that final third, particularly someone like Richarlison, whenever he played. I know he had a good spell last year under Ange Postecoglou, but there was a lot of games he missed glorious chances, and we missed a lot of chances in that final third, not just him, a lot of the players that played. Do you like the style? Because I know Ange recently has said we're not entertained when we beat Manchester United 4-3 in the cup game. But what do you make of the style? Because when you go from managers like Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte to then this football, he's already come out and said, he said in the press conference the other day, this is exactly what Spurs fans want.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, the pendulum's really swung, hasn't it? Because under Conte, it was very sort of defensive, and try and sort of break, quickly. Whereas with Ange, it's just full out attack, which is great to watch. I think one of you guys said it earlier, if you're a neutral, but as a Tottenham fan, it's literally heart attack football. I mean, I sit there, I actually think to myself, we're winning 3-0, and I think to myself, we need a fourth. 3-0 with 20 minutes to go, and I'm thinking we need a goal.
That's normal being a Spurs fan, Gary.
I know, but it's awful.
That don't matter who the manager is, though, does it?
doesn't. Don't know what decade, don't know what year.
Yeah. But I sit there on the edge of my seat, praying for a fourth goal, when reality is just shut up shop. It's not rocket science, just shut up shop. I'm not a football manager, but I can see what's going on, same as you guys can and all the other fans can. And you just think to yourself, just shut up shop. It's not, we've played really well. We've scored 3 goals. Now shut it up. Batten down the hatches. We're done. Take the 3 points. Thank you very much. But unfortunately, he just wants to get the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. And against Liverpool, we were just so wide open. Let's be honest, that could have been a cricket score. Not to be negative, but factual as far as I'm concerned. Could have been a cricket score if they were a bit more clinical and if they hadn't taken their foot off the gas, I feel.
Gary, in terms of the transfer window, what do you think is realistic? Because you've probably heard us talk to a number of guests about it's going to be very difficult in the January window anyway, but particularly this year because of the new format of teams not knowing whether they're going to be in Europe or not beyond January. What's realistic for you? Where do we need to really strengthen in this window if we can?
I think January is notoriously difficult, so everyone seems to think. But I think we could utilise the loan market. I think that's an avenue we can go down. I believe you can have, is it 4? You can get 4 in. I'm not even sure about the rules, but
4 over a season.
Oh, is that what it is? Right. Okay. Yeah, I think so. We could perhaps utilise that. But for me personally, I think we need a goalkeeper. We need a left back. We need a left-sided centre back. Possibly a number 6 if I'm going to be greedy, and a striker to supplement and back up and make Solanke.
Not much then.
No. I'm being greedy, and Mr. Levy's going to give it to me as well. I've begged him, I've pleaded with him, but I think realistically we'll probably get a couple. But as long as they're the right 2. But what I don't want to see, Chris, as everyone keeps going on about it, but I want specific players for specific positions. I keep hearing this utility.
Versatile,
Yeah, versatile. But it's almost like a jack of all trades, but master of none. I want specifics. We've got enough utility players so that if we get what I call a specific left back, then if that player gets injured, we've got enough sort of versatility within the squad to drop someone else into there. I think we need to get specific players for specific positions in order to make us a better team moving forward. But yeah, five in the transfer window. Goalkeeper for sure. Sam Johnson, I think, is a good shout, as you said earlier. I think that would be a good signing. I think the other guy that said, and I thought it for a while as well, Romero going into number 6 would be a great shout. Absolutely great shout. But I think long term, Archie Gray, I've got big hopes, and I think Bergvall as well. Bergvall for sure. I mean, he should get more game time, in my opinion. I think James Maddison is being played completely the wrong way. I think he's way too deep. He's a number 10. Why, he's picking up the ball so deep. You've got, they've the other team's created a low block. What can he do? It's just, it's all right playing this fast, high octane, risk and reward football, but at some point you've got to think to yourself, it is not working. It works occasionally, and when it works fantastically. But when it doesn't work, which is more often than not, you find yourself 11th in the league and plummeting, unfortunately. I do believe that will be his downfall. Not that I want that to be the case. I must emphasise that. I like every Spurs. Well, I hope I can speak for every Spurs fan. I want us to win. I want us to win trophies. I want us to. I'm greedy. I want us to finish in the top 4 minimum, and I want us to win a trophy.
I always say that, Gary, no matter what opinions we all have, and some of them are very different, as you've seen and heard tonight, but we all want that same thing. We all want success. We all want those trophies, and they've been way overdue, nearly 17 years now without one. It's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, I watch a lot of podcasts. I won't name names on here because that's probably not the right thing to do, but there's some really good ones. And then you've got a few that are so negative and so anti-Ange and so anti this and so anti that. And I just look at it and I think to myself, well, surely we all want the same thing. Surely we all want Ange to succeed. Whether he does or not it remains to be seen. But I honestly just feel that there's going to come a point. I think the league position. I don't think the cups will be his downfall. I think it's the league position, because I think if we carry on to slip down that league, and it looks like we're not going to be able to move forward and move up the league and threaten top 4, then I think Levy will press the button. I really do. And as I keep saying, really don't want that to happen. But we'll have to see.
Gary, last question for you. You've been a great guest. What's your score prediction for the Newcastle game?
Oh, we're gonna lose 8-1. No. My heart says we'll win 3-1. My head says it's going to be a really tough game. Like the previous guest said, they're absolutely flying at the minute. And I think they're going to be, I think the fact that we're at home doesn't really make a lot of difference, to be honest with you, because like you said earlier, if Newcastle score first, and if God forbid, if they score a second, the place will just, you hear a tin tack drop on the floor. Do you know what I mean? It's it's difficult times at the minute, but I'm positive. I love my team. I've supported them for far too many years. Like I say, heart attack city when you watch Tottenham. But it's all good.
Yeah, like Ange Postecoglou has said, you get through this tough period and hopefully get some of the players back, and hopefully we can progress on yet again. Gary, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on, giving your views.
Yeah, much appreciated. And if you ever want me on again, you know where I am.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. Speak to you soon.
Time, guys. Thank you.
Cheers. Gary.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, I think we do have one more guest to go to, and that's Aiden. Aiden, if you put your camera on, I'll bring you in. Oh, perfect timing. Aiden, thanks so much for joining us. How are you? So sorry for the wait. I can't believe that we have been talking to fans for nearly 3 hours. How are you? How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
Oh, how am I, Chris? Well, I think we need signings. I think the club's not strong enough at the minute, to be honest. I think we need big quality players in this club for success, to be honest. I don't think we have the quality in that team to win these trophies that I want us to be winning, to bring success to this club.
Aiden, what signings would you make in the transfer window if you were Johan Langland? Who would you be going for?
Well, I love Grealish. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd like Cunha, and then I would also like that left back from Bournemouth. I thought he was very good against us. And why not bring Johnson in?
Yeah, there's plenty out there, though, isn't there? Yeah, there is plenty of players available. It's just if they're gettable in January.
Yeah.
Aiden, do you think that Ange Postecoglou will be given the time and the patience from the fan base, from Daniel Levy, from the board, from the media? Because, like I said earlier to other guests, it seems like some people just can't wait to jump on things going wrong.
I think if we don't win that Liverpool game in them 2 legs, which is going to be a very tough game, I think a lot of fans will change their side on it. I think that's a very big game for him. I mean, I'm and Jim because I like the way we play, but when we don't have these players such as Van der Ven, he's so important for us. We just fall apart against these teams.
Do you think
Aiden.
the Liverpool game is the tipping point then, as I've said before, Aiden? Do you think that could be his Achilles heel if we lose, or his greatest moment if we don't, of course?
Yeah, I think so. I think that game is very important. If he loses it, I think if we lose that game, I think his results will. If his results don't turn, I don't think Levy will keep him in.
Aiden, what positives would you take from this season so far? Because, you know, when I look at it, I know everyone's had their say this evening, and there does seem to be a lot of negativity in terms of, you know, I know it's not going to be all rosy and everyone's going to be positive in the league position that we're in, but we are still in the cups. People like Dejan Kulusevski have been absolutely fantastic. Dominic Solanke has been a real shining light in terms of the pressing that he has done in the final third. Of course, we do know that we have a number of great players at the football club if we can get them all back firing on all cylinders and get them back to full fitness. What positives have you seen and what have you been happy about this season?
For me, it's Kulusevski, Maddison and Solanke. I think them three have done incredible for us this season. I think we need to utilise Maddison and Kulov. I think they're great playing together. As we see against City when they destroyed that pitch, I think that's really important for us. That's been really important for us this season.
But do you think, because I've been banging the drum for Josh Keeley for the last year or so, do you think Josh Keeley's ready to prove himself in the Premier League, or do you think? I personally think he needs to stay at Orient till the end of the season, certainly, but then given a chance next year. Do you think we really need another backup keeper, or give Josh Keeley a chance? Because for me, Alfie Whiteman it's clear to me Alfie Whiteman and Brandon Austin are not high up in his priorities to play Ange Postecoglou.
Well, that's what we're seeing. He's not playing them, and they're there to play. But that's Ange's decision. If you don't want to play them, they're not going to be played. Like we see with Spence. Spence has not been played, but he's been really good for us when he has played.
Aiden, I always notice that a lot of the younger fans are always about the top four, always about the club playing in the Champions League. And it seems to be a pattern that a lot of the older fans are about the cups. Where do you stand on it? Because Spurs not winning a trophy in nearly 17 years. Would you like to see a Carabao Cup success this season rather than a European spot for next season?
Absolutely. I don't think it's about the Premier League position. For me personally, if we get in that top four, I don't see us beating teams like Madrid, AC Milan. I think they've got way too much quality for us. If we want to compete with them, we need to make the signings.
And lastly for you, of course, the Newcastle game takes place Saturday. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
I think we're going to draw 2-2. I haven't got too much confidence in that game. I mean, look at Isak. He's most informed player in the Prem probably at the minute. I think. Plus, if we play that defence, I just don't see them beating Isak, to be honest.
Aiden, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for being so patient, waiting for all of the other guests to talk. Be great to have you back on the show again soon.
Thank Chris. Thank Craig. Happy
Cheers,
New Year.
Aiden.
Happy New Year. Cheers. I've got to say, Craig, wow, 3 hours, nearly 3 hours talking to Spurs fans. I tell you, I've really, really enjoyed this, and this time has absolutely flown by. Mr. Box Office TV, Alex, has just said, big up Chris and Craig, much love. Even if we do not agree, it's football. I think Alex is actually quite wrong. I agree with some of the stuff Alex actually says. And we've said this before, Craig. We've actually agreed with some of the stuff that Alex has come out and said. It's interesting, and
that's right.
There have been so many interesting and different points this evening.
I've really enjoyed it. I can't believe, I've been on long podcasts. I think the longest one we did was just under 3 hours, and this is rivaling that. The one we did that was 3 hours did seem like 3 hours, because I think we were doing a rip-up contract, buy-sell show, and it took us ages to get through all the players, but this one has just flown by tonight. And the fact that everybody's come on and just made such good good points, different points. Like we've had super positive fans. We've had other fans that perhaps take a more pragmatic approach. We've had fans come on like Alex, like he said, opinions differ to a degree, but some of what he says I agree with, other things I don't. But that's the brilliant part about football and the brilliant part about supporting Tottenham Hotspur. And, you know, if we were winning every game, it'd be really boring, wouldn't it? No, it probably wouldn't. Ignore me, but you know what I mean.
You're right. We've done some long old podcasts, but I'll tell you what, talking to, I think it's about 20 fans that we have spoken to today. And as you said, some real positive ones, some negative ones, people in between. And I get all of the frustration. I really do. I get all of the frustration. Of course, we speak about it week after week, game after game, Craig, which of course we'll be back on Saturday for the edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, talking about the Newcastle game. Lastly, Craig, give me a score prediction for the Newcastle game. How are you feeling ahead of it? Because I just feel again, and like I've said this many times, the crowd will be so important, particularly the 12:30 kickoff, the early kickoff. The crowd need to be up for it. There's weather warnings, there's travel disruptions again, so it's going to be interesting to see whether it's going to be a packed house at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but the crowd need to give everything. The team need to give everything. Of course, Bentancur is out. Udogie is out for a couple of months, which is a huge blow to us in terms of the next couple of months, because we've got games coming thick and fast again in January in all competitions again. We'll be playing in the League Cup, we'll be playing in the FA Cup, the Europa League, and of course, key Premier League games. How are you feeling about January?
Wow, a lot to go into there, but I'll try and keep it quick. I did, and I was just about to put that on the screen. I did predict a loss last week when I was on, but I've since changed my mind. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it is. Alice is spot on. I think it's going to be 2-2. I do, however, would love to see some movement in the transfer window over the next couple of days. We're not going to get anybody in for Saturday, I don't think. And historically, we don't do brilliantly on the lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday. And the old BT Sport curse is what you used to call it. But look, a long shot, but we may well get somebody in to face Liverpool. You never know. But yeah, this is our club. Look, we've got to support them through thick and thin. I hate them sometimes. I'm sure everybody does. But let's hope we're all in a better mood on Saturday than we were in the podcast the other day, because it felt like a loss, even though it wasn't. But we'll keep going. We will keep going.
I'm just thinking, Craig, if we've done nearly 3 hours, you and I, think of if it was me and Ricky Norwood and the guests, how long would we be going for then?
That's probably going to break the record. That's probably going to break the record.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining me, and I cannot thank all of the guests enough for all of their input. I tell you what, we used to do these shows putting up all of the comments, but there is nothing like talking to people face to face, getting their thoughts and their feelings on our fantastic football club, Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, we all want the same thing. We all want success, and hopefully it's just around the corner. A happy new year to everybody. Let's hope it is a successful one for you personally and for our football club. Let's hope that Ange Postecoglou gets the players that he needs in this January transfer window to progress the football club forward, not only for the future, but for the now as well, because it's very important. We're in all the cup competitions, and let's hope that we can go far in them. Craig, thank you so much. Thanks to all the guests. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And if you don't subscribe to the channel already, please do hit that subscribe button. The subscriber number is simply incredible. 146,000 subscribers on the channel right now. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support. And remember that all of these shows are available on audio platforms. And we did have a couple of people ask how you can get involved in a future show. Very simply, all of the guests today have just simply emailed me, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com, and then we have added them on the show. It will be great to hear from you wherever you are around the world, whatever your thoughts and feelings are on the football club. We want to hear all of your opinions. Thanks for all of your incredible support, as I've already mentioned, and we will see you on the Spurs Chat podcast after the Spurs v Newcastle game on Saturday, live from 3:30 UK time. Have a great week. Come on, you Spurs.